You're in for a scare.
Good evening. I think that's enough of the suspense. Hello. Right then, R.L Stine. He did a series called Goosebumps. This is one of them. One Day at Horrorland. I have never read this one. Queen, buzz, motherfucker indeed. Tiggy, good evening. Lone Wolf, 1972. Thank you for the follow, even though I haven't done anything yet. Right then. I don't think we shall dally any longer. Shall we just get on with it? Yeah, let's do that. So, R.L Stine, Goosebumps, One Day at Horrorland. They're in a different order to what I read. Ooh, this is a good start, isn't it? Right then. Apparently this came out in 1994. So yes, ready for my Friday Spanks good night story. Excellent. Okay then, without further ado, no worries, good evening to you. Good evening to you as well, sir. Okay. Right then. Chapter 1. As we entered the gates to Horrorland, we had no idea that in just a few hours. Start again. Fucked up the first sentence. As we entered the gates to Horrorland, we had no idea that in just a few hours, we would all be lying in our coffins. I'm the calm one in the Morris family. Everyone says, Lizzie, you're the calm one. And I'm trying to tell this story calmly. I am? Fuck. That's me knackered. But believe me, there's no way. We have never planned to go to Horrorland. In fact, we'd never heard of it. I'm not doing the entire book like that, so I can't do it calmly. You were 4 when this came out. Damn. I was 9. So, okay. The 5 of us were squeezed into Dad's little Toyota. Oh, I heard I got paid for that. On our way to spend the day at Zoo Gardens theme park. Dad had messed up and left a map at home, but Mum said the park would be real easy to find. When we got close to the park, Mum said there would be lots of signs to direct us, but so far we hadn't seen a single sign. That's a bad sign. Dad was driving, and Mum was beside him in the front. I squeezed him back with my little brother or sister? Brother, Luke, who is 10, and Luke's friend, Clay. It wasn't the best place to be. My brother cannot sit still for a second, especially in the car. He just has too much energy, and he's totally goofy. The longer he drove, the more restless Luke became. He tried wrestling with Clay, but there wasn't room. When he tried arm wrestling with him, and the two of them kept bumping me until I lost my temper and started shouting at them to stop. Why don't you 3 play alphabet? Mum suggested from the front. Look out the window for letters. There aren't any, Luke replied. There aren't any signs. There isn't anything to look at, Clay grumbled. He was right. We were driving past flat, sandy fields. There were a few scraggly trees here and there. The rest was all desert. 22 years young. Damn. Oh, username checks out. There we are. He was right. We're driving. Well, I'm going to take this turn off, Dad announced. He took off his Chicago Cubs cap and scratched his thinning blonde hair. Haven't I already taken this turn off? Dad is the only blonde in the family. Mom, Luke, and I all have straight black hair and blue eyes. Oh. Are you adopted? Or has Dad been cheating? Or has Mum been cheating? Complications arising. In fact, Dad doesn't look as if he belongs in the same family. The 3 of us are tall and thin, with very fair skin, and Dad is short and kind of chubby, with a round face that's almost always pink. I tease him all the time because I think he looks a lot more like a wrestler than a bank manager, which he is. I'm pretty sure we've already been here, Dad said unhappily. It's hard to tell. It's all desert, Mum replied, gazing out the window. Very helpful, Dad muttered. How can I be helpful? Mum shot back. You're the one who left the map on the kitchen table. I thought you packed it, Dad grumbled. Why should it be my job to pack the map? Mum cried. Break it up, you two, I interrupted. Once they started fighting, they never stop. Really? Well, they must have stopped in order to begin again. I think you're lying. It's always best to interrupt them quickly before they really get into it. I'm the Mad Pincher, Luke cried. Call the police. He let out a gruesome horror movie laugh and started pinching Clay's ribs and arms. I hate Luke's Mad Pincher routine more than anything. I was so glad that Clay was sitting in the middle next to Luke and not me. Usually, the only way to stop Luke's pinching is to slug him, or hit him with a taser. Clay started squirming and laughing. He thinks everything Luke does is a riot. He laughs at all my brother's stupid jokes and stunts. I think that's why Luke likes Clay so much. The two of them began pinching each other. This isn't going in the direction I hope it's going. Then Luke shoved Clay into me. Give me a break, I cried. I shoved Clay back. I know I shouldn't have, but it was getting hot in the car, and we'd been driving for hours, and what was I supposed to do? Lizzie, boys, chill out back there, Dad cried. Dad, nobody says chill out anymore, I told him calmly and quietly. Bollocks, we say it all the time, even now. For some reason, that made him go berserk. He started yelling, and his face got bright red. I knew he wasn't mad at me. He was mad because he couldn't find Zoo Gardens theme park. Everyone just take a deep breath and be silent, Mum suggested. Ow! Stop pinching me, Clay screamed. He gave Luke a hard shove. You stop pinching me, my brother shrieked, shoving him back. Boys can really be animals. Hey, look! A sign ahead! It says, please do not pinch people. Oh, no, wait. Clay screamed. Mum pointed out a large green sign came into view. Luke and Clay stopped fighting. Dad leaned forward over the steering wheel, squinting through the windshield. Does it say where the park is? Luke demanded. Does it say where we are? Clay asked. The words on the sign came into view as we drove past it. It read, Sign for rent. We all let out disappointed groans. The Mad Pincher returns, Luke cried. He gave Clay a hard pinch on the arm. Luke never knows when to quit. This road isn't going anywhere, Dad said, scowling. I'll have to turn around and get back on the highway if I can find it. I think you should ask someone for directions, Mum suggested. Astro, hello. How you doing? I see you pop in. Ask someone, Dad exploded. Do you see anyone I can ask? His face was bright red again. He drove with one hand so he could use the other to shake a fist. I meant if you see a gas station, Mum murmured. A gas station? Dad screamed. I don't even see a tree. Dad was right. I stared out the window and saw nothing but white sand on both sides of the road. The sun beamed down on it, making it gleam. The sand was so bright, it nearly looked like snow. I meant to go north, Dad muttered. The desert is south. We must have gone south. Who were? You better turn around, Mum urged. Are we lost? Clay asked. I could hear some fear in his voice. Clay isn't the bravest kid in the world. In fact, he is pretty easy to scare. Once I crept up on him in our backyard at night and whispered his name, and he almost jumped right out of his shoes. That's a shoe. Dad, are we lost? Luke repeated the question. Yeah, we're lost, Dad replied quietly. Hopelessly lost. Well, I think you start cannibalizing each other, frankly, at this rate. Clay let out a soft cry and slumped in the seat. He looked a little like a balloon deflating. Don't tell him that, Mum cried sharply. What should I tell him? Dad snapped back. We're nowhere near Zoo Gardens. We're nowhere near civilization. We're in the desert, going nowhere. We're on the road to nowhere. Just turn around. I'm sure we'll find someone we can ask, Mum said softly. And stop being so dramatic. We're all going to die in this desert, Luke said, with a gruesome grin on his face. And buzzards will peck out our eyeballs and eat our flesh. My brother has a great sense of humour, doesn't he? He sure does. You can't imagine what it's like having to live with a total ghoul. Yes. Luke, stop staring, Clay, Mum said, turning in her seat to glare at Luke. I'm not scared, Clay insisted, but he looked scared. His round face was kind of pale, and his eyes were blinking a lot behind his glasses. His short, feathery blonde hair and round eyeglasses. Clay looked a lot like a frightened owl. Woohoo! Come on, let's ride. Muttering to himself, Dad slowed the car to a stop. Then he turned it around, and we headed back in the direction we had come. Great vacation, he said through clenched teeth. It's still early, Mum told him, checking her watch. The late morning sun was nearly straight overhead. I could feel its warmth on my face through the open sunroof. We drove for nearly half an hour. Luke wanted to play 20 questions or geography with Clay, but Clay moodily said no. He just stared out the window, watching the desert roll by. Every few minutes I asked, Are we still lost? Pretty lost, my dad was still replying happily. We're okay, Mum said, reassuring us. As we drove, the straggliest, shaggy, scaggy trees reappeared. Then, after a while, the sand gave way to darker fields, dotted with trees and low shrubs. I sat quietly, my hands clasped in my lap, staring out the window. There's a lot staring out the window in this book, isn't there? Not our favourite thing to do. I wasn't really scared or worried, but I wish we had at least seen a gas station or a store or one other human being. I'm getting hungry, Luke cried. Is it lunchtime? With a long sigh that sounded like air escaping from a tyre, Dad pulled the car to the side of the road. He reached across Mum to the glove compartment. There's got to be some kind of map in there, he said. No, I already looked, Mum said. As they started to argue, I raised my eyes to the open sunroof above my head. Oh! I let out a cry as I saw a hideous monster staring down at me, lowering its enormous head, about to crush the car. The horror. Chapter 2. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. I have a mouth, but I can't scream. No, that's not right. The monster glared down at me through the sunroof. It was as tall as a building. What, on top of the car? What? How big is your car? I realised its red eyes glowed with evil, and its mouth twisted in a hungry grin. Dad, I finally managed to stammer. Dad was bent over, fumbling through the papers in the glove compartment. Wow, I heard Luke cry. I turned and saw that Luke was staring up at it too, his blue eyes wide with fright. Dad? Mum? My heart was pounding so loud, I thought my chest may explode. Lizzie, what is it? Mum asked impatiently. The monster lowered its head over us, its mouth open wide, ready to swallow the whole car. And then Luke started to laugh. Wow, cool, he cried. And I realised at the same time that the monster wasn't alive. It was a mechanical figure, part of a giant billboard display. Oh, what an anticlimax. Ducking my head to get a better view through the side window, I saw that Dad had pulled the car right up beside the billboard. How did he not notice it before now? Jesus. You were staring out the window, weren't you? Kids. My parents are so busy arguing about maps, they hadn't even noticed it. I stared up at the red-eyed monster. It lowered its head and opened its jaws. Then the jaws snapped shut, and the enormous head slid back up. It looks so real, Clay exclaimed, staring up at it. Didn't fool me, I lied. I wasn't going to admit that I nearly leaped out through the sunroof. I'm supposed to be the calm one after all. I rolled down the window and stuck my head out to read the billboard in front of the mechanical monster. In huge red letters it read, Welcome to Horrorland, where nightmares come to life. There was a dark red arrow in the upper left-hand corner with the words 1 mile. which is 1/8 of the Slim Shady film. Can we go there? Luke demanded eagerly. He leaned forward and grabbed the back of the dad's seat with both hands. Can we, Dad? How about it? It looks kinda scary, Clay said softly. Dad slammed the glove compartment shut with a sigh. He was giving up on the map idea. Luke, stop pulling my seat, he snapped. Sit back. Can we go to Horrorland? Luke asked. Horrorland? What's Horrorland? Mom demanded. Never heard of it, Dad muttered. It's only a mile from here, Luke pleaded. It looks great. The monster lowered its head over the car, staring it through the sunroof. Then it raised its head again. I don't think so, Mum said, looking out at the huge billboard. Zoo Gardens is such a wonderful park. Horrorland doesn't look very nice. It looks great, Luke insisted, pulling at Dad's seat back again. It looks really excellent. Excellent. Luke, sit back, Dad pleaded. Let's go, I urged. Let's go. We're never going to find Zoo Gardens. Mum hesitated, chewing her lower lip. I don't know, she said fretfully. Some of these places aren't safe. It'll be safe, Luke declared. It'll be very safe. Luke, sit back, Dad growled. Rawr. Can we go? Luke demanded, ignoring Dad's request. Can we? It could be fun, Clay said quietly. Let's give it a try, I urged her. If we hate it, we can always leave. Not if you pay to get in. Dad rubbed his chin. He sighed. Well, I guess it would be better than sitting here in the middle of nowhere arguing all day. Yeah! Luke screamed. Luke and I reached over Clay to slap each other a high five. Horrorland sounded like a pretty cool place to me, too. I love scary rides. If the rides are as scary as that monster, I said, pointing at the billboard, this park will be awesome. You don't think it's too scary, do you? Clay asked. I saw that he had his hands clasped tightly on his lap, and he had a frightened owl look on his face again. Woohoo! No, it won't be too scary, I told him. Oh wow, was I wrong. I can't believe someone would build a big theme park out in the wilderness, Dad declared. Yes, normally it's in a two-bedroom bungalow. We were driving through what seemed like an endless forest. Tall old trees leaned over the two-lane road, nearly blocking out the late morning sun. What a terrible night to have a curse. Maybe they hadn't built the park yet, Mum suggested. Maybe they're going to clear out these trees and build the park here, when she got her voice back correctly. All three of us in the back seat were hoping Mum was wrong, and she was. The road curved sharply, and as we came out of the curve, we saw the tall gates to the park straight ahead. Behind a tall purple fence, Horrorland seemed to stretch for miles. Leaning forward in my seat, I could see the tops of trees and strange colourful buildings. As we drove across the enormous parking lot, eerie chords of organ music invaded the car. Not that kind of organ. Yay! This place looks great, Luke exclaimed. Clay and I enthusiastically agreed. We agree. I couldn't wait to get out of the car and see everything. This parking lot is nearly empty, Dad said, glancing uneasily at me. That means we don't have to wait long in lines, I quickly exclaimed. I think Lizzie is excited about this place, Mum commented, smiling. Me too, Luke cried. He punched Clay enthusiastically on the shoulder. Ow. Luke always has to be the punching or pinching somebody. We crossed the ride parking lot. I saw a few cars parked near the front gate. At the far side of the lot stood a row of purple and green buses with the word Horrorland across the side. As we rode closer, I got a good look at the front gate. The same monster we had seen behind the billboard rose up behind a big purple and green sign over the gate. He said that twice. The sign read, The Horrorland of Horrors welcome you to Horrorland. Do you get commission every time you say the word horror? Any chance? I don't get the sign, Mum said. What are the Horrorland horrors? We'll find out, I exclaimed happily. The solemn, eerie organ music floated heavily over the parking lot. All of the horror. So much horror. How can you contain so much horror? Dad pulled into a space into an empty aisle to the right of the front gate. Luke and I had pushed open the back doors before the car had even stopped, and were run over by the back tyres. The end. No. Let's go, I cried. Luke, Clay, and I started trotting towards the gate. As I ran, I stared up at the green monster over the sign. This one didn't move its head like the billboard monster, but it looked very real. I glanced back and saw what Mum and Dad were hurrying to catch up with us. This is going to be way cool, I exclaimed. And then I grasped a deafening explosion made the ground shake. Bang. And I stared back into the horror as our car burst apart, exploding into a million pieces. That's not a very good advert for Toyota, is it? Buy a Toyota, it'll just explode in the parking lot. Maybe that's the true horror of this series. We may never know or care. Chapter 3. It took me a long while to stop screaming. Finally, I swallowed hard. Oh wait, choking back my cries. We all stared in shock. Small chunks of twisted metal and a few burning cinders were all that was left of our car. How? Was all Dad managed to say. I don't believe it, Victor Meldrew said, making a very small cameo. I stammered. Thank goodness we're all out of the car, Mum cried. She gathered us up in a big hug. Thank goodness we're all okay. Luke and Clay still hadn't uttered a sound. They stood wide-eyed, staring at the spot where the car had stood. My car! Dad choked out in a horrific whisper. My car! How? How? We're safe, Mum murmured. We're all safe. What a terrifying explosion! I can't get the sound of it out of my ears. I've got to call the police, Dad sputtered. He began trotting to the gate, shaking his head, muttering to himself. How could the car just blow up like that there? Mum asked, going after him. What would make it do that? Combustion, I guess. How should I know? Dad snapped angrily. I don't get it. I really don't. And now what are we going to do? He sounded really panicked. I didn't blame him. The explosion was really scary. Yes. And when I realised we could have all been inside the car when it went off, I had cold chills down my back, and they're multiplying. Maybe there's a car rental place we can call, Mum suggested, in a different voice. Mum is like me, calming any emergency. We followed Dad as he went running up the ticket booth at the entrance. A green monster stood in the booth. He had bulging yellow eyes and dark horns curled over his head. It was a really great costume. Welcome to Horrorland, he said in a gruff, low voice. A loud stab of organ music rose up from inside the ticket booth. I am in Horrorland Horror, all of the horrors, and I hope you have a scary day. My car, Dad cried frantically. There was an explosion. I need a phone. I'm sorry, sir. No phones, the guy in the monster costume replied. Huh? Dad's face was bright red again. His forehead was drenched with sweat. But I need a phone. Right away, Dad insisted, glaring angrily at the green monster. My car exploded. We're stuck here. We'll take care of you, the horror replied, lowering his gruff voice nearly to a whisper. You're what? Dad cried. We need a car. I need to get to a phone. Don't you understand? No phones, the monster repeated. But please, sir, allow us to take care of you. I promise we will take care of everything. Don't let this spoil your visit to Horrorland. Spoil my visit? Dad shrieked, his face growing even redder. But my car! Another loud stab of organ music made me jump. The creepy music made me feel as if I was actually in a horror movie. We'll take care of you, I promise, the horror said. A strange smile across my face. His yellow eyes lit up. Please enjoy your stay, and do not worry about transportation. The other horrors and I will see that you are properly taken care of. But, Dad sputtered. The horror gestured towards the park. There is the park. Please enter as our guest. Free admission. I apologize for your car, but please, do not worry. I promise you will have no need to worry about your car. Dad turned back to us, sweat dripping down his forehead. I can see he was really upset. I I can't enjoy an amusement park now, he said. I can't believe this happened. I really can't. We've got to get back to the car somehow and... Oh, please, Dad, Luke cried. Please, can't we go inside? You said he'll take care of it for us. Just for a little while. I joined my brother in pleading. We've had such a long drive, Mum told Dad. Let's go in for a short while. Let them blow off some steam. Dad thought about it, frowning hard. Okay, just for a little while, he agreed finally. The organ music grew louder as we stepped through the gate. Wow, look at this place, I cried. It really is like being in a horror movie. We were standing on a brown cobble street. Strange dark cottages tilted up on both sides of the street. Tall trees along the street nearly blocked out all the sunlight. The air carried a chill. Low howls, like wolf howls, floated out in the cottages. Ow. Low effort wolf cry. Cool, Luke declared. A sign proclaimed, Welcome to Werewolf Village. Do not feed the werewolves if you can help it. Welcome to Resident Evil 8. The frightening howls grew louder. Yes. Luke and I laughed at the sign. I saw a green monster, one of the horrors, staring out at us through a dark window in the cottage across the narrow street. The horrors are going cottaging. Oh dear. Don't like where this is going. Another horror walked past, carrying a very real-looking human head. He grasped it by his long blonde hair and bounced it up and down, sort of like a yo-yo, as he walked. Cool, Luke proclaimed again. It seemed to be his word of the day. We walked along the cobbled street. The sound of our thudding sneakers echoed off into the cottage walls. Ugh! We all let out cries of surprise as a long, low, grey wolf ran out in front of us. It disappeared along the side of a cottage before we really got a good look at it. Was that a real wolf? Clay asked, his voice shaking. Of course not, I told him. It was probably a dog, or else it was mechanical. Well, they certainly keep this park clean, Mum said, trying to sound cheerful. There isn't a piece of trash or dirt anywhere. Of course, it isn't very crowded. Dad lingered behind. I've got to find a phone, he said fretfully. I can't enjoy this until we all have a way to get home. But dear, Mum started. There's got to be a phone somewhere, Dad interrupted. Go on without me. Nah, I'll come with you, Mum said. You're in such a frantic state, you'll need me to make the calls for you. The kids have a better time without us hanging around anyway. Leave them, Dad cried. You mean, let them go on their own? Of course, Mum said, hurrying back to him. They'll be perfectly fine. This looks like a very nice place. What could happen? Ignore the werewolves. What could happen? With those words, Mum and Dad rushed off to find a phone. God, I could stop doing the voice. Oh no. Meet back here, Mum called to us. Luke, Clay and I were suddenly on our own. I turned to watch Mum and Dad hurry away. I turned back in time to see a grey wolf edging out from behind the cottage. It lowered its head and let out a rumbling warning growl. All three of us froze as we realised its hungry red eyes were locked on us. And he's hungry like the wolf. Better not to learn it to be like that. Woof woof. Yeah, can we get some Rossi emotes in chat? Don't wink at the camera, that is terrifying. That's part of the Spooky Rambles month, by the way. Chapter 4. I cried out and pulled Luke and Clay back. The wolf slithered out, holding its head low, glaring up at us with red wide eyes, its mouth opening hungrily. It's real, Clay declared, swallowing hard. I had my hand on its shoulder. I could feel him trembling. The wolf let out a deep growl. Then it slid back behind the cottage wall. I think it's some kind of robot or something, I told Clay. Let's go somewhere else, Clay replied, suddenly very pale. What does that sign up there say? Luke asked. He went running over the dark cobbled stones to read the sign, and Clay and I followed. The sign read, No pinching. Luke laughed. That's stupid. What a dumb sign, Clay agreed. That sign was meant just for you, Luke, I exclaimed. I gave him a hard pinch on the arm. Hey, can't you read? He shouted angrily, pointing to the sign. I saw a green horror watching us from down the street. Then I saw a family making its way behind a row of cottages. There was a mother, a father, and a little girl. The little girl was crying for some reason. The parents had their hands on her shoulders and looked very upset. A wolf howl cut through the air. Let's find some rides, Clay suggested. Some scary rides, Luke added. Walking side by side, keeping close together, we made our way out to the werewolf village, the street winding to a round plaza. Bright sunlight returned as soon as we stepped out of the village. They haven't got much survival instinct, have they? Wiggles got attacked by a wolf. Well, let's see if there's some rides. Several purple and green buildings surrounded the plaza. I saw a few more families and several green costume horrors keeping an eye on everything. A pudgy horror behind a purple and green cart was selling ice cream cones. Black ice cream. Yuck, Luke declared, making a face. We hurried past the cart, past another no pinching sign, and stopped in front of what appeared to be a tall purple mountain. Don't start going on about purple mountains, please. There's too many euphemisms. It's a ride, I told them. What did I just say about euphemisms? Stop it. A doorway was cut into the side of the mountain, and above the doorway was a sign. Doom slide. Okay, that's pretty badass. Will you be the one to slide forever? Cool, Luke cried, slapping Clay a high five. What is this channel? I'll bet you climb to the top and slide all the way down, I said, pointing to the top of the mountain-shaped building. Let's go, Luke cried excitedly. We ran to the building and through the open doorways in its side. It was dark and cold outside. A wide ramp curved up towards the top. I could hear kids squealing and laughing, but I couldn't see them. The three of us half ran up the ramp, eager to get to the top. And halfway up, we stopped to read another sign. Warning, you may be the one to slide to your doom. The Doom Slider. Why wasn't that in Doom Eternal? What a missed opportunity. Now I could hear kids screaming as they slid down, but it was too dark to see anything. Are you scared, Clay? I asked, noticing his tight expression. I don't know how you do a tight expression. No way, he insisted, embarrassed by my question. I've seen these things before. They're like really huge sliding boards. You just sit on them and slide down. Hurry, Luke shouted, running ahead of us. Hey, wait up, I called. I followed them to the top of the ramp. We found ourselves on a wide platform. A row of long, curving sliding boards stretched to the end of the platform. The sliding boards were numbered from 1 to 10. In the dim light, I saw two horrors watching us approach. They stood in front of the sliding boards. Their bulging yellow eyes lit up as we hurried over to them. Do you slide all the way down? Luke asked one of them. The horror nodded. Do you go really fast? Clay asked, lingering a few feet behind us. The horror nodded again. It's a long way down, he rumbled. Be careful which side you pick, the other horror warned. Don't pick the doom slide, he gestured to the number painted in black in front of each slide. Yes, don't pick the doom slide, his partner repeated. You'll slide down forever and ever. I laughed. He was just trying to scare us. Wasn't he? Dun dun dun. Chapter 5. I chose slide number 3 because 3 is my lucky number. Luke sat down on top of the slide next to mine. Slide number 2. Number 2. And Clay scrambled over to the far end and dropped down onto slide number 10. I glanced back to see what the horrors were doing, but before I could focus on them, I felt the bottom tilt beneath me. I let out a long, high-pitched shriek as I began to slide. I raised my arms over my head, and now I can't read the book. Damn. That didn't work. Leaned back and screamed all the way down. My cries echoed into the enormous dark canyon of the Doomslide building. It felt great. The slide curved and curved, and I swirled down into the darkness, faster and faster. In the shadowy light, I could see Luke in the slide next to mine. He was lying on his back, staring straight up with his mouth wide open. I tried to call out to him, but the slide curved away, and I curved with it. Down, down, deeper and down. Get down, deeper and down. Down, down, deeper and down. I was sliding so fast, the darkness became a solid blur. Woohoo! The slide curved up and then around, then down again. I'm a human roller coaster, I thought happily. Happily? Why would you want to be a roller coaster? That's just weird. You'll be made of girders. Strange child. Down, down, darker and darker. I'm sliding faster than the speed of light, I thought. Damn that. I glanced from one side to the other, trying to see Luke and Clay, but it was too dark. I was moving too fast. Too fast. And then, bump. The chute opened up. I hit the ground hard, landing on the seat of my jeans. Outside. I was back outside. Bump. Luke bounced out beside me. He hit the ground, still lying on his back, and made no attempt to get up. He grinned at me. Where am I? Back on the ground, I told him, climbing to my feet. I brushed off the back of my jeans, then reached behind the head to straighten my braid. Great ride, huh? Let's go again, Luke said, still lying there. We can't go again if you don't get up, I said. Help me. He reached up a hand. I groaned as I tugged him into a sitting position. Naughty. Get up yourself, I said impatiently. You were screaming in there, he told me. I did it on purpose, I said. I wanted to scream. Yeah, sure. He rolled his eyes. Then he pulled himself to his feet. Wow, I'm a little dizzy. How fast do you think we were going? I shrugged. Pretty fast, I think. It's so dark in there, it's hard to know how fast you're going. And then I realised we were missing a member of our sliding party. I stared at the closed chutes on the wall of our building. Hey, where's Clay? Luke had forgotten about him too. What good fucking mates you are. We both stared at the side of the building, waiting for Clay to pop out. Where is he? Luke demanded shrilly. He couldn't be that much slower than us, could he? I shook my head. I was starting to feel really nervous. I had a heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach, and my hands were suddenly cold and clammy. Come on, Clay, I pleaded, staring at the wall. Come on out. Luke scratched his black hair. Where'd he go? He asked. Why didn't Clay come out? Maybe he came out to the front, I said. Maybe slide number 10 dumps you out in front. Let's check it out. As we ran behind the building toward the front, I scolded myself for getting scared so easily. Of course Clay came out in a different chute. He was probably waiting for us in front of the building. He was probably worried about us. As we rounded the purple building, the wide circular plaza came into view. I searched for Mum and Dad, but they weren't there. I saw a couple of other families on the other side of the circle, and the pudgy green horror leaning on his ice cream cart. No sign of Clay. Luke and I kept running up to the front entrance to the doom slide. We stopped a few feet from the dark opening. He isn't there, I cried, struggling to catch his breath. I was breathing hard too, and the heavy feeling of dread in my stomach grew even heavier. No, no, Clay, I muttered. What are we going to do? Luke asked. His blue eyes were wide with fear. I saw a green horror woman standing just over the entrance. Hey! I called as I ran over to her. Did you see a kid come out of there? I asked breathlessly. The yellow eyes in the horror's mask bulged and appeared to light up. No, this is the entrance. No one comes out here, she replied. He's a blonde and sort of chubby. He wears glasses, I told her. He's wearing a blue t-shirt and denim shorts. The horror shook her head. No, everyone comes out this way. Did you check out the back? Everyone comes out the back. He didn't, Luke said shrilly. We were there. He didn't come out. My brother's voice was high and squeaky. He was breathing so hard his chest was heaving up and down. He was in a panic. I was frightened too, but I knew I had to stay calm for Luke's sake. He didn't come out the back, I told the horror, and he didn't come out the front. So what happened to him? The horror was silent for a long moment. Then she said in a low voice, just above a whisper, Maybe your friend chose the doom slide. Dun, 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 dun. Chapter 6. I stared at the woman in the horror costume. You're joking, right? I stammered. I mean, the doom slide? That's just a joke. She stared back with her bulging yellow eyes and didn't reply. The signs give a warning, she said. There's always a warning. She turned and disappeared into the dark entrance. Luke and I goggled at each other. I swallowed hard. My throat suddenly felt very dry. My hands were as cold as ice. I was willing to sacrifice. This is stupid, Luke muttered. He jammed his hands into his jeans pockets. It's just a dumb slide. Why is she trying to scare us? I guess that's her job, I told him. We've got to find Mum and Dad, Luke muttered. We've got to find Clay first, I told him. If Mum and Dad find out we've lost Clay, they'll get angry and make us go home as soon as we find him. If we find him, Luke said glumly. I glanced back across the plaza. No Mum or Dad. 2 teenagers were buying black ice cream cones and a horror at the cart. 2 horrors were sweeping the plaza with push brooms, working side by side. Far into the distance, I could hear the howl of the wolf from the werewolf village. The sun was high in the sky now. I could feel it beaming down on the top of my head and on my shoulders, but it still felt cold all over. Clay, where are you? I asked, thinking out loud. He's sliding forever, Luke said, shaking his head. Sliding forever and ever on the doom slide. That's dumb, I replied, but Luke had given me an idea. Come on, I said, tucking the sleeve of his t-shirt, and started pulling him to the dark entrance. Huh? Where? Luke pulled him back. We'll go on the slides again, I told him. His mouth dropped open in protest. Without Clay? We can't go on it again without Clay. We're going to find Clay, I said, grabbing his arm this time and pulling him to the dark open doorway. You mean? My brother was starting to catch on. I nodded. Yes, we'll follow him. We'll take the same slide he took. Slide number 10, Luke muttered, and then he added in a solemn whisper, the doom slide. We'll take it, and it will lead us right to him, I said. We climbed in the ramp in silence. The rapid thud of our sneakers echoed in the vast hollow mountain. We ran past the sign about halfway up to the top. I read it again as I passed it by. Warning, you may be the one to slide to your doom. Clay, are you still sliding? I wondered. I shook my head hard, shaking away the thought. Of course he wasn't still sliding. What a stupid idea. The 2 horrors were still standing at the top of the slides. Be careful which side you pick, one of them warned. We know which one we want, I said, breathing breathlessly. I know which one we want, I said breathlessly. Slide number 10, both of us, together. The horror nearest the slide mentioned for us to sit down. I glanced at Luke, who stood right behind me, his features tight with fear. He took me back a few steps. Maybe we shouldn't, he whispered. Why not? I demanded impatiently. What if the warning is true? Luke demanded. Don't be dumb, I scolded him. This is an amusement park, remember? They don't kill kids or send them sliding to their doom. It's all for fun. That's not true. Luke swallowed hard. You sure? Of course I'm sure, I replied. Now, do you want to find Clay or not? Luke nodded. Then let's go, I ordered. I sat down at the top of the slide number 10. Luke plopped down right next behind me, yes. That makes sense. Stretching his legs outside of mine. I felt the floor tilt up beneath us. We started to slide. Clay, here we come, I cried, followed by the term, whee! Oh, the suspense, guys. Are you enjoying it so far? It's certainly a book. Chapter 7. I didn't scream this time. I clasped my hands in my lap and gritted my teeth. There was no way I was going to enjoy this ride. I just wanted to get to the end of it. I wanted to solve the mystery and find Clay. As we slid down together, Luke grabbed onto me, his hands gripping my waist. He cried out when we slid over a big bump, and it felt as if we were going to go flying off the slide. Then we both screamed as the slide took a steep dive, almost straight down, and we started to fall. We landed hard, and then the slide curved sharply to our right. We were both screaming our lungs out now. It was very messy. We were sliding faster and faster in total darkness, blacker than black. I tried to see if we were moving alongside the other slides, but it was so dark, I couldn't even see my sneakers in front of me. Luke squeezed my waist so hard, I could hardly breathe, and then I reminded him about the no pinching rule and gave him a bitch slap. I tried to tell him to loosen his grip, but he was screaming too loud to hear. Down, down, deeper and down, get down, deeper and down, darker and darker. We hit another bump that sent us bouncing up into the air. Then the slide dipped and curved sharply to the left. We should be at the bottom by now, I realized. We had been sliding a very long time. I gritted my teeth harder and tried to brace myself to go flying out the chute and bumping into the ground. But no chute opened. The ride didn't end. We began to slide faster. I gasped in mouthfuls of the hot, damp air, struggling to catch my breath. The slide dipped and curved, sending us down into the thick, heavy blackness. We're going to slide forever. The warning sign didn't lie. I struggled to force those frightening thoughts from my mind. Luke suddenly got very quiet. Are you okay? I called back to him. I don't know, he replied, holding on even tighter. Why are we sliding so long? You're hurting me, I cried. I thought we were struggling to catch the breath, but none can have a full conversation. Make your mind up. He loosened his hold a little. I don't like this, he shouted in my ear. We hit another bump. His hands flew off me. Another bump. Even harder. I thought I was going to fly off the slide and fall to the bottom. If there was a bottom. Down, down. Luke and I both cried out in disgust as something sticky covered our faces. Don't want to know. I reached up with both hands and tried to pull it off. No, that's not helping. Yuck, Luke screamed. What is it? My face. It's like cobwebs, I shouted back at him. Hot, sticky cobweb. I'm abandoning this book. No. Oh, fine. My whole face itched. The sticky threads covered my face like a net. I pulled frantically. Stop it. Bad book. Bad book. Be more child-friendly. Oh, I cried as the slide took another sharp dip. Tearing at the sticky cobwebs, I managed to pull most of them off, but my face is still itched like crazy. It felt as if 1,000 ants were crawling around on it. It's so gross, Luke yelled behind me. My face. It hurts. Down into the heavy darkness, and then a flare of bright light made me shut my eyes. Was it daylight? Were we heading outside? No. I forced my eyes open and squinted at the yellow light. I realized I was staring at blazing flames. The slide ahead of us was on fire. The yellow and orange flames raged up, topped by a curtain of billowing black smoke. I raised my hands to my face and started to shriek. We were sliding right into the blazing flames. We're going to burn up, Luke screamed. Help! Somebody help us! Into the burning flames. What could possibly happen? Maybe this. Let's get my voice a rest for a second. Chippy Chapter 8. I shut my mouth and felt a powerful burst of heat, almost like an explosion. I'm burning up, I thought. Burning up! Oh, what a world, what a world. There we go. A rush of cool air made me open my eyes. The fire was behind us now. We had sailed right through it. Curving gently, we slid through cool darkness. I could still see the orange flicker of flames reflected in the dark walls above us. Luke and I were both silent. I was waiting for my heart to start thudding in my chest. Great special effects, Luke cried. He let out a wild laugh, a frantic laugh I'd never heard before. The fire was fake, I realized. Then why are you so hot? Some kind of projection or something. I sucked in mouthfuls of cool air. I'd never been so terrified in my life. What about earlier when you had the giant monster above the car? You were pretty terrified then. When does this ride end? Luke cried. His voice had become high and frightened. Never, I thought grimly. We really are going to slide forever. And as that frightening thought lingered in my mind, a chute opened up in front of it. Daylight streamed in. Bump. I landed hard on soft grass. A second later, Luke dropped out behind me. I blinked several times, waiting for my eyes to adjust to the bright sunlight. Then I climbed slowly to my feet, my heart still pounding. A yellow and green sign on a wooden pole stood directly in front of us. It read, Welcome to Doom. Population 0 humans, and 1 Doomslayer, and a footload of imps. Standing next to the sign was Clay. He came rushing over to greet us, a happy smile on his round pink face. Hey guys, hey, he called. Where have you been? He slapped Luke a high five, then Luke gave him a playful punch in the stomach. Ow. Where have we been? I asked. Where have you been? Right here, Clay replied. I didn't know where I was. I think this is the other side of the park or something, so I just waited for you. We went back on the Doom side, Luke. explained. We took your slide, number 10. What a ride! It was so cool! A few seconds ago, Luke had been shrieking in real terror. Now here he was, pretending he loved it, telling Clay how cool it was. You picked a good slide, Luke told Clay. Wow, it was excellent. I was kind of scared, Clay confessed. I mean, the fire and changing tack. Do you have a change of underpants by any chance? Great special effects, my brother acclaimed. This park is awesome. You went on a slide. Calm down. Luke was such a phony. There was no way he could ever admit they had been worried about Clay, and no way he'd admit that the long slide to doom had terrified him. But it was glad to see his old enthusiasm return. I really didn't like seeing my brother frightened and in a panic. It was kind of a long slide, Clay said, frowning. His feathery blonde hair glowed in the bright sunlight. A little too long, I think. I'd like to go on it again, Luke boasted. I turned and gazed around. We were definitely in another section of Horrorland. Nothing looked familiar. Across the wide walkway, I saw several kids in bathing suits heading down the sandy beach. A sign over the path read, Horror Rapids. To our right, a square-shaped building made of glass reflected the bright sunlight. The glass walls shimmered brightly as if it was on fire. Squinting into the light, I could just barely make out the sign in front of it. House of Mirrors. Let's try the House of Mirrors, Luke urged, pulling Clay by the arm. Whoa, wait a minute, I cried. Don't you think we should try and find Mum and Dad? They're way over on the other side of the park, Luke replied, tugging Clay along with him across the pavement. Let's have some fun, and then find them. They're probably looking for us, I said fretfully. The park isn't very crowded. They'll find us, Luke replied. Come on, Lizzie. It looks like fun. I hesitated, thinking about Mum and Dad. I started and... Try again. I stared into the huge white glare of the glass building. Suddenly, I felt someone tap my shoulder. Startled, I cried out and spun around. It was a green costumed horror. His bulging eyes stared into mine as he leaned close to me. Get away while you can, he whispered. He turned his eyes quickly from side to side, as if making sure no one was watching him. Please, I'm serious. Get away while you can. Chapter 9. I was so stunned, I didn't say anything. I watched him run off, moving awkwardly in the bulky horror costume, his purple tail dragging over the pavement behind him. What did he want? Clay called. He and Luke were nearly up to the House of Mirrors entrance. Sorry, I meant to say House of Mirrors. He said he should get out while he can, I stammered, running over to them. I lost him for a moment in the blinding sunlight reflected off the glass building. Luke laughed. These horror guys are great, he declared. They really try to scare you in this place. Behind his glasses, Clay's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. He was kidding, right? I asked quietly. I mean, it was just a joke, wasn't it? I don't know, I told him. I guess so. I watched a horror disappear quickly behind a tall, blue, pyramid-shaped building. That's his job, Luke insisted. He goes around scaring people all day. Hey, I can relate to that. Maybe he was really warning us, Clay murmured, staring at me. No way, Luke declared. He gave Clay a hard slap on the back. Stop looking so gloomy all the time. This is a great place. You'd like to be scared, don't you? Clay's expression remained worried. I guess, he replied uncertainly. I started to tell Clay I was sure it was just a joke, but Luke interrupted. Hurry up! Let's check out the House of Mirrors. Let's have some fun before Mum and Dad show up and make us leave. He dragged Clay towards the entrance, and I followed. We passed another no pinching sign as we made our way to the shimmering glass building. Let me guess. Alright, calling it now. You have to pinch each other to sort of get out of it, and it's sort of like a dreamscape or some shit. We'll see. Outside the entrance, I stopped to read the yellow and green sign. It read, House of Mirrors. Reflect before you enter. No one may ever see you again. See what you did there, sign? Hey, wait up, I called to the boys. They had already hurried inside. I stepped in and found myself a narrow, dark tunnel. My eyes were still filled with a great glare from outside. I couldn't see a thing. Luke, Clay, wait up, I shouted. My voice echoed through the low tunnel. I could hear them laughing up ahead. I jogged blindly, ducking my head because the ceiling was so low. How low can you go? Finally, my eyes adjusted to the darkness. The tunnel ended, and I found myself in a narrow corridor with mirrored walls and a mirrored ceiling. Oh! I uttered a low cry. I could see my reflection. Dozens of them. I seemed to be surrounded by myself. I stopped for a moment and adjusted my long black braid. It was always coming loose. Then I called again to the boys. Where are you? Wait up! I could hear them giggling somewhere up ahead. Try and find us, Luke called. More giggling. I made my way quickly through the mirrored walkway. The walls curved up to the right, and then the left. My reflections followed me, stretching deep into the mirrors. Dozens and dozens of me, getting smaller and smaller, stretching to infinity. To infinity, and then probably not much further. Hey, don't get too far ahead, I cried. I heard them giggling. Then I heard a rumble of footsteps that seemed to come from the other side of the mirrored wall. I followed the corridor, walking slowly, carefully, till I saw a narrow opening up ahead. Wait right there, I'm coming through, I called. I started through the opening and bonk! Hit my forehead on solid glass. Ow! I cried out in pain as a jolt. Start again. Ow! I cried as the pain jolted across my forehead, and then down the back of my neck, all the way down to my spine. It was the bonk that threw me off. Bonks normally throw people off, I find. I raised my hands to the glass and waited for my dizziness to fade away. Lizzie, where are you? Try to find us, I heard Luke call. I hit my head, I shouted, rubbing my forehead. I could hear him and Clay laughing. Their voices seemed to be behind me now. I turned back, but there were only mirrors behind me. No opening. My head had still ached a little, but the dizziness had gone away. I started walking again, more carefully this time. I kept both hands out in front of me, so I wouldn't bump into anything again. I turned the corner and stepped into a different room. To my surprise, the floor in this room were all mirrors. The walls, the ceiling, the floor were all mirrors. He said that. I felt as if I was standing inside a mirrored box. Great metaphor there. I took a few careful steps. It felt so weird walking on my own reflection. I could see the tops and bottoms of my sneakers as I walked. It made it really hard to walk. I kept having the feeling I was going to fall into myself. Hey guys, where are you? I called. No reply. I felt a sharp stab of fear in my stomach. Ow. Oh no, it be fear. Luke, Clay, are you there? I saw the mouths of my reflections move as I called out. Dozens of mouths. But only one voice came out. My voice, tiny and shrill. Luke? Clay? Silence. Don't fool around, guys, I shouted. Where are you? Silence. No reply. I stared at the dozens of reflections on all sides of me. They all looked very frightened. Luke? Clay? Where had they gone? Dun dun dun. They probably went back on the Doom slide since they enjoyed it that much. Sorry, I shall just have a quick sip. Perfect. How long is this book, by the way? I've got no idea. It is that long. Good. We are about a third of the way through it, guys. Hooray. Chapter 10. I stared at my reflection as horrifying thoughts swept over me. Had the boys really disappeared? Had it been taken off Amazon Prime? It's a good show, The Boys. Got nothing to do with this, though. Had they fallen into some kind of trap? Were they lost in a maze of glass and mirrors? Horrorland was too scary, I decided. It was fun to be sad, but it was too hard to tell whether the scares here were for fun or for real. Were there dangers in this place? Or was it all a big scary joke? Luke? Clay? I called to them in a trembling voice, turning all around, searching for an exit. Too scary. So it's been on the slide, and it's gone to a hall of mirrors. And that's too scary. Okay. Uh, Luke, Clay. I called to them in a trembling voice, turning all around, searching for an exit. Silence. Then I heard a muffled giggle. Then I heard whispering voices nearby. Another giggle, louder this time. Luke's giggle. They have been playing a little joke on me. Hey, you're not funny, I screamed angrily. Really not funny. I could hear them burst out laughing. Come and find us, Lizzie, Luke called. Come and play with us, Lizzie, forever and ever. No, wait. What's taking you so long? Clay added. More giggling. It seemed to come from just up ahead. Sliding my hands along the mirrors, I followed the hallway around to the right. I had to duck my head to slip through a narrow opening between the mirrors. I found myself in another small room surrounded by mirrors above and below and on all sides. The mirrors were tilted at strange angles so that my reflection appeared to bounce off each other as I moved. Take a shot every time I say mirrors, guys. Let's see how drunk you get. I'm getting very. Where are you? Am I getting closer? I called. The light grew dim as I made my way through this room. My reflections darkened. The shadows grew longer. We can't see you, Clay called. Hurry up, Luke shouted impatiently. I'm going as fast as I can, I screamed. Just don't move, okay? Stay in one place. We are, Luke called back. How will we ever get out of here? I heard Clay asking in a low voice. Ow! I bumped my head against a section of clear glass. I pounded my fist angrily on the glass. I'm drinking tea. Fair enough. Well, drink your tea quickly. This wasn't any fun, I decided. It was too painful. Hurry up, Luke called from somewhere nearby. It's boring waiting for you here. I'm coming, I muttered, rubbing my poor aching forehead. I turned the corner and stepped into a wider room. No mirrors here. The walls all glass. I stopped to gaze around, and there was Luke. Finally, he cried. Why couldn't you find us? I kept hitting my head, I told him. Let's get out of here. Where's Clay? Huh? Luke's mouth dropped open in surprise. He spun around, searching for his friend. He was standing right there, he said. Luke, I'm in no mood for any more dumb jokes, I said sharply. Clay, where are you hiding? I'm not hiding. I'm over here, Clay called. I took a few steps closer to my brother, and Clay came into view. He was standing in deep shadows behind a glass wall, his hand pressed against the pane. How'd you get over there? Luke asked Clay. Clay shrugged. I can't find a way out. I moved towards my brother, then stopped. I suddenly realized that this was behind a wall of glass. Luke and I were in different rooms. Hey, where's the opening? I asked him. Luke glanced around. What do you mean, Lizzie? You and I. We're not in the same room. I replied. I walked up to the glass wall and tapped it with my fist. Huh? Luke's face filled with surprise. He made his way over to me. He then tapped on his side of the glass, as if making sure it really did exist. How'd that get there? He murmured. Clay started moving around the room, sliding his hands along the panes of glass, searching for the opening. Stand right there, I told Luke. I'll find a way into your room. I followed Clay's example. I moved slowly around the room, keeping a hand pressed against the glass. The light was dim. My shadow fell over the glass as I walked. I could see my face reflected darkly in the glass. My eyes stared back at me, dark and desperate. Before I realized it, I had made a complete circle. I was back where I had started, and there was no opening, no doorway, no way out. Hey, I'm trapped in here, Clay called shrilly. So am I told him. There's got to be an opening, Lou said. How did we get in? You're right, I replied fretfully. We should be able to get out of here the way we came in. I began to search along the walls again, moving quickly. My heart began to pound. I had a fluttering feeling in my chest. There had to be a way out. There had to be. Luke pounded hard on the glass. In the other room, I could see Clay jogging frantically around his room, pushing on the walls as he moved. I went all the way around twice, then stopped. There was no way out. I'm trapped, I stammered. It's like a box. A glass box. We're all trapped, Clay cried. Luke was still pounding frantically on the glass with his fist. Luke, stop, I cried shrilly. That isn't helping. I lowered his fist to his sides. This is ridiculous, he muttered. There's got to be a way out. Maybe there's a trapdoor or something, I suggested. I began to search the mirrored floor. It was too dark to see well. The floor appeared solid to me. I returned to the glass wall. This isn't much fun, I said grumbly. Luke and Clay nodded. They could see they were both really frightened, and so was I. It's a trap. But I decided I was 2 years older than them, so I had to try and be the brave one. I wasn't feeling very brave, though. Uttering a worried sigh, I leaned against the wall that separated Luke and me. As I leaned, the wall began to move. I jumped back with a sharp cry. Eek! The wall was sliding towards me, closing in on me. I took another step back, glancing around frantically. I saw that all the walls were sliding in. Look! I cried. I turned to see him backing up too. The walls! Clay cried. Help me! They're sliding in on me too! Luke screamed. Each room must have its own glass walls. All three of us were trapped. With a desperate groan, I threw myself against one of the walls and tried to push it back, but I couldn't stop it. The box was closing in, growing smaller, smaller. We're going to be crushed, I cried. And then R2-D2 appeared and saved the day. No, wait, that's a different thing. The end. Oh, no. Okay. No, not really. Chapter 11. Do something, please. Do something. Clay was screaming. Luke lowered his shoulder to the glass and snuggled to keep it... Snuggled. He snuggled the door and tried to seduce it. No, wait. It's not what happens. He lowered his shoulder to the glass and struggled to stop it from moving. But it wasn't strong enough. The walls kept sliding in on him. I backed up, my hands raised like a shield. Closer. Closer. The glass walls moved slowly, silently. I backed up until my back hit the wall behind me. There was nowhere to go. Do something! Somebody! Do something! Clay's terrified screams rang in my ears. No, I can't hear it. The glass! It's squeezing me! Luke shrieked. Lizzie! I can't move! I shouted to him. The panes of glass began to press in for me from all sides, above and below too. I suddenly pictured one of those crushed cars. You know, the cars that are crushed into a perfect square in those big compactor machines. My entire body shuddered as I realized I was going to be crushed into a perfect square too. Ow! I cried out as the glass pressed down on me. Somebody help! I tried to scream, but my voice came out a muffled yell. It was getting harder to breathe. The glass panes moved in. Tighter. Tighter. I gasped for air. I tried to push with all my might against the glass, but it was no use. I was being crushed into a human square. Not as good as a Rice Krispie square, is it? Chapter... What's the point of making a chapter that small? Why don't you just crowbar that in at the end of chapter with 10? It's the same pissing scenario. I don't know. I'll tell R.L Stine how to do his job. Anyway, chapter 12. I couldn't hear Luke or Clay anymore. I could only hear my gasping, choked breath. I shut my eyes and felt the floor drop away. And before I realised what was happening, I was falling rapidly down. I opened my eyes in time to see the glass walls roll above me, and as I slid down through an open chute. And in seconds I was back outside. I landed sitting up on the grass with a gentle thud. Luke and Clay came sliding out beside me. For a long moment we sat on the grass, blinking in the bright sunlight, staring at each other in disbelief. We're okay, Clay said uncertainly, finally breaking his silence. He slowly climbed to his feet, his face round and bright red, and his glasses were crooked and nearly falling off his nose. We're okay. Yay. Rejoice. Luke let out a laugh, a gleeful laugh. He stood up and began jumping up and down for joy. I didn't exactly feel like jumping up and down. I was still picturing the crushed car. Luke reached down, grabbed both of my hands, and pulled me to my feet. What should we do next? He demanded, grinning. Huh? Next? I cried. Are you for real? That was really scary, Clay said, his face still red. I thought we were going to be scrunched flat. It was awesome, Luke declared. Once again, he was forgetting that a few seconds before, he'd been screaming in a total panic. It was way too scary, Clay murmured, shaking his head. Clay's right, I agreed. It was too scary to be fun. One more second and... Don't you see? That's the whole idea, Luke cried. That's how they scare you here. It's so awesome. They make you think it's one more second and you're a goner, but it's all perfectly timed. They want you to be terrified and then, poof, you're okay. I guess you're right, Clay said doubtfully. He pushed up his glasses, then rubbed his chin. We're not really going to get hurt or anything, Luke continued. This is an amusement park, remember? They want you to come back again and again. So they're not really going to hurt you, anybody. Shouldn't your asses be hurting from all the slides and drops you've been having? Surely someone should have broken a leg by now. Maybe, said Clay. But Luke, what if they mess up? I asked him. What if the machines got goofed up? What if the timing gets off? Let's say the floor underneath us got stuck. Then what? Luke didn't reply. He stared back at me thoughtfully. What would have happened to us if the floor hadn't dropped away at the right moment? I demanded. Luke shrugged. They make everything work, okay? He answered finally. I rolled my eyes. Yeah, sure. Is it possible to really be scared to death? Clay asked me, a solemn expression on his face. I mean, I know it happens in books and movies, but does it happen in real life? Or is it just fantasy, caught in a landslide in a hall of mirrors? I don't know, maybe, I replied. I bet people could get scared to death in that house of mirrors. Clay continued seriously. No way, Luke insisted. Listen to me. This is just a place for fun. Scary fun. He was watching something over my shoulder. I turned to see him to be one of the guys in a green horror costume walking by, carrying a huge bouquet of black balloons. He stole my balloons! It's a random Batman 1989 reference. Luke hurried up beside the horror. Hey, has anyone ever died here in this park? Luke asked. The horror kept walking. The black balloons bobbed above his head. Only once, he told Luke. One person died here? Luke asked. The horror shook his big green head. No, not what I meant. What did you mean? Luke demanded. A person can only die once here, the horror said. No one has ever died twice. I see what you did there. And now, on to lucky number chapter 30, where I'm sure everything will be fine and hunky-dory. Do you mean people have really died here? I shouted. But the horror walked quickly on, the black balloons bouncing across each other, floating darkly against the clear blue sky. The horror's answer made me shiver. It wasn't just his words. It was the cold tone of his voice, the way he made it sound like a warning. Not in the voice I did it in. He was joking, right? Clay asked in a trembling voice. He scratched his blonde hair nervously. Yeah, I guess, I replied. A family walked past us, heading toward the house of mirrors. They had two little boys with them, both about 5 or 6, and both of them were crying. I've seen so many crying kids in this park, I commented. They're just wimps, Luke replied. Scaredy cats. Let's go find another ride or something. No, I really think we should find Mum and Dad, I told him. Yeah, let's go find them, Clay said eagerly, the poor kid. I think he was really scared, but he was trying his best not to let my brother see how frightened he was. Ah, what's the hurry, Luke protested. Let them find us. But they're probably really worried, I insisted. I started walking toward the front gate. Dad will only make us leave, Luke grumbled, but he followed anyway, and Clay gratefully came along, keeping close to my side. Following the trail, we passed by a rickety old wooden roller coaster. It rose up as high as a 4-story building, casting a wide dark shadow over the walk. A sign in front read, Out of order. Do you dare to ride it anyway? Don't encourage them. The gate was open, and there was no attendant. Hey, Lizzie, want to ride it? Luke asked, staring at the beat-up cars parked at the bottom of the tracks. No way, Clay and I replied in unison. We kept on walking. The trail curved under thick trees, and we were suddenly in the shade. A sign read, Beware of tree snakes. Clay covered his head with his hands. All three of us raised our eyes to the trees. Were there really snakes up there? It was too dark to see anything. The leaves were so thick, no sunlight filtered through. Suddenly, I heard a gentle hissing sound. and then I realised I left the gas on. At first, I thought it was just the rustle of the leaves, but then the hissing grew louder, until all of the trees seemed to be hissing down at us. Run! I cried. Run away! The three of us started running along the trail, ducking low, our sneakers footing hard on the pavement. The hissing in the trees above us grew louder, angrier. I thought I saw a long, dark snake slithering in the grass beside the trail, but it was just a pervert. But it might just have been a shadow. We kept running even after the trees The trees ended, and we were in the sunlight again. The trail curved past a row of evil-looking statues. They were made of stone. They were statues of grinning monsters, eyes narrowed menacingly, fangs levered from their twisted mouths. Their arms were outstretched, ready to grab anyone who came close. I slowed to a trot, my eyes on the ugly statues. Suddenly, I heard a low, evil laughter. It's coming from the statues, Clay exclaimed. Keep running! Did the statues move toward us? Did they raise their arms higher? Did they raise their hands in the air like they just don't care? Did they beckon us to come closer? I'm not sure. With their evil laughter in my ears, I lowered my head and turned on the speed. You're taking speed? Don't do speed, kids. Oh. All three of us were panting hard as we ran across the trail. I didn't see any other people. I didn't see anyone in a horror costume either. We slowed as we came to another sign. This one had an arrow pointing in the direction we were running. It read, Front exit. Don't bother. You will never escape. I caught the worried expression on Clay's face as he read the sign. It's only a joke, I told him. The signs are supposed to be funny. Ha ha, he said weakly. He was panting hard, struggling to catch his breath. Without warning, Luke jumped on Clay's shoulders. Hey, Clay, how about a ride? Clay cried out angrily. Get off! Luke laughed and hung on. Clay dropped to his knees, trying to throw Luke off. Come on, guys, I pleaded. Luke, stop being such a goof. We're trying to find Mum and Dad. But now they were laughing and wrestling on the ground. Come on, guys, I shouted, rolling my eyes. Let's go. I took my brother to his feet. Clay's glasses had flown off. He stopped to pick them up from the grass, and we continued on our way. The path led past a rectangular. That's a word I've just invented. Rectangular. Copyright that. I've no idea what it means. The path led past a rectangular flower garden filled with black flowers. Then it suddenly came to a stop in front of a large red barn. I wasn't expecting a barn. Stealth barn. The boys picked up on the open doorway of the barn. I stayed back, searching for a path that led behind the barn. I couldn't see one. The path goes right through the barn to the other side, Luke called to me. Come on, Lizzie. Break on through to the other side. He motioned for me to join them. Join us. This is going to pieces. I spotted a small sign painted to the right of the barn's double doors. It read, Bat Barn! Na 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 Bat Barn! Is the Bat Barn an upgrade or a downgrade for a Bat Cave? I am unsure. I mean, it's probably got proper insulation. Okay. Hey, are there bats in there? I called, feeling a cold shudder run down my back. I like most animals, but bats really give me the creeps. Luke stepped up inside the barn. Clay hung back, standing just outside the door. I don't see any, Luke called out to me. It's kind of dark. A strange odour invaded my nostrils. It's not me. It was strong and sour. It came from the barn. Now, that's the name of a horror book. It came from the barn. I didn't want to go in there. Come on, Lizzie, Luke called. The path goes right out to the other side. Don't be chicken. You can run straight through. I stepped up beside Clay at the doorway and peered inside the barn. It looks okay, Clay said quietly. The sour odour was much stronger. Ugh, I said, making a face. It really stinks. Luke stood inside the barn, his eyes raised to the rafters. What, he actually lifted his eyes up to the rafters? That must be painful. I don't see anything up there, he reported. Doors in the opposite wall were wide open. It would only take 10 seconds to run through the barn and out to the other side, I realized. Let's go, I told Clay. He and I stepped into the barn. The sour smell was overpowering. I held my breath and pinched my fingers over my nose. We started running to the doors in the opposite wall, and they slammed shut. With a gasp of surprise, I turned back to the doors we had entered. They had slammed shut too. Hey! I shouted angrily. What's going on? You're looking kind of down to me, Clay cried in a whisper. We were in a total darkness, blacker than black. I mean, what's more black than black? And the answer is none. None more black. This sour odour swept over me. I started to feel sick. Then I heard the rapid flutter of wings, soft at first, then louder. Closer. I screamed as I felt something brush against the back of my neck. I hope it's not a barn. No, wait. A bat? Or a bat barn? If they splice those genes, who knows what these crazy scientists can come up with. I'm getting besides the point. Chapter 14. Go away! I let out a low moan of horror and swung my hands wildly above my head. The rapid fluttering retreated, then returned. Bats! Clay replied in a terrible tiny voice. I felt him grab my arm. I can't see, Luke shouted. It's too dark. I hate bats, I said. We can't stop here. This is Bat Barn. I felt a cold whoosh of air as a bat flapped over my head. I swung my hands wildly. My flapping, fluttering sounds were all around us. As my eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness, I began to see shadowy shapes shooting past, back and forth, faster and faster. I felt one brush against my shoulder. Oh, help! I cried. Clay started to shriek. Help us! Help us! They're zooming right at me, Luke wailed. They're holding a meeting online. Oh no! Something bumped into my shoulder. I screamed. Help us! Help us! Clay continued to plead at the top of his lungs. His shouts were nearly drowned out by the flapping of wings. I felt another bat brush against my shoulder. Covering my face, I tried to make my way blindly to the door. The sour odour choked me. My terror made my legs shaky. I could barely walk. And then I felt a hard tug in my hair. Another tug. Loud flapping in my head. A shrill whistling hiss. So close, it could have been coming from me. The hiss was coming from inside the house. And yourself, apparently. I screamed. I screamed again. Ah! Ah! It's caught my hair, I cried, falling to my knees. Another shrill hiss. Another tug of my hair. I strung my hands. I hit it. I felt a warm body, felt the brush of fluttering winds. I shoved it hard, shoved it from my hair. Oh, help! I cried. The flapping wings and shrill whistles surrounded me. I could hear Luke and Clay shouting, but they seemed far, far away. Another one brushed my cheek. Another one bumped my shoulder. The shadows darted back and forth. The barn was alive with flying, chittering bats. Oh, help! Help us, please! Another one brushed my face, and another one broke the dust. I felt a rush of air beating wings on the top of my head. Help us! Help us! But there was no one around to help. Spoopy. Chapter 15. I covered my eyes with one hand and thrashed out wildly, with the other hand trying to beat the bats away. Choking and sobbing, I could barely breathe. I heard Luke calling far, far away. He seemed to be behind a curtain of flapping, chittering bats, and then suddenly, sunlight invaded the barn. On my knees, I lowered my hands from my eyes and saw that the barn door had slid open. Luke, standing at the door, his mouth open in shock, turned back to Clay and me. I touched the door, and it opened, he explained. Clay's glasses were hanging off one ear. His blonde hair was totally messed up. His eyes darted around the barn. Where are the bats? He cried. I raised my eyes to the rafters. Hey! I cried out. No bats, no sign of any bats anywhere. I climbed to my feet, pulling my hair back with both hands. Let's get out of here, I cried. Clay and I followed Luke out of the barn. The warm sunshine felt so good. I was still itchy from the bats. I rubbed my shoulders and the back of my neck. I hate bats. I really do, I exclaimed with a shudder. But there weren't any bats, Luke said, grinning at me. It was all a fake. Huh? It was not, Clay cried angrily. Those were bats. I could hear them and feel them. Oh, special effects, Luke claimed. It wasn't special effects when one got tangled up in my hair, I cried. Just thinking about it gave me cold shivers. Special effects, Luke repeated. Really excellent special effects. I was almost scared too. Man, Luke's obsessed with special effects, isn't he? Maybe he should work for Industrial Light and Magic. Almost, I cried. I walked over him, grabbed him, and pretended to wring his neck. Why, you little... Almost I heard you screaming your head off, Luke. He pulled out of my grasp, laughing. I knew it wasn't real. I was just screaming like that to scare you. What a liar. I really didn't believe my brother. He was scared. He was plenty scared. I knew he was. They were bats, not special effects, I insisted angrily. Then where did they go when the door opened? Luke demanded. As soon as the door opened, the bats all vanished. Let's stop talking about it, Clay pleaded. Let's find your parents, okay? Yeah, okay, I agreed, glaring at Luke. You really are nuts, you know that? I told him. He stuck his tongue out at me. I wanted to punch his lights out, but I tried to be a non-violent person. So I just gave him one hard punch on the shoulder. That's still violence. He howled in progress. You're stupid, Lizzie. You're really stupid, he muttered. And you're afraid of 10 bats. I ignored him and led the way down to the path towards the front gate. 2 people in horror costumes appeared on the path, going the other way, chatting enthusiastically. Is this the way to the front gate? I called to them. They ignored my question and walked right past us. Hey! I called to them. But they both kept jabbering away and didn't even seem to hear or see me. The sun beamed down on us. The air had become hot and still with no breeze at all. I wiped sweat off my forehead with one hand. I could still smell the sour aroma of the bat barn. I don't know why I find that so amusing, but I do. The odour was on my hands, on my clothes, on my heads and my toes. I saw 4 teenagers in bathing suits, 2 boys and 2 girls, hurrying over the grass towards a large brown pond. A sign came into view near the shore. It read, Alligator Pond. Feel free to swim here. Luke laughed. Are those guys crazy? Crazy like an alligator. We stopped to watch them step into the water. Do you think there were really alligators in there? Clay asked, biting his lower lip. I shrugged. Who knows? I don't know what to think about this park. We continued along the path. A few moments later, I recognized the mountain-shaped structure of the Doom Slide. The wide circular plaza came into view. It was nearly deserted. Even the ice cream-selling horror had vanished from his cart. Where do you suppose Mum and Dad are? I asked. They've probably been looking for us for hours, and now they're really mad, Luke said, frowning. Where are they? Clay cried. He was starting to sound really stressed out. We've got to find them. Is that them? Luke asked. He was pointing to a man and a woman in the shade of a large green stone fountain. I shielded my eyes from the sun with one hand. The woman was tall with dark hair. The man was short and blond. Yes, that's them, I cried happily. I started running towards the fountain, calling to them. Mom, Dad? The boys came racing after me. Mom, Dad, hey! They shouted happily. They both turned around, surprised expressions on their faces. Oh, I cried out when I saw it wasn't them. I stopped short, and Luke bumped right into me. Sorry, I told the confused people. We thought you were someone else. The 3 of us hurried across the plaza. I could hear the wail of wolves' howls from the werewolf village. Low effort, mate. The ice cream cart stood lonely and deserted near the entrance to the Doom Slide. Where are they? Clay asked, whining. I'm starting to get hungry. Yeah, it's way past lunchtime, I agreed. They could be anywhere, Luke said unhappily, kicking a pebble across the pavement. They could be anywhere in this giant park. I sighed. Let's look for them in the shade. The sun is getting really hot. We headed toward the shade of the Doom Slide building. Suddenly, 2 green costume horrors came into view. Their big yellow eyes bulged in front of their heads, rather than on their heads. Without thinking, I went running up to them. "Have you seen our parents?" I asked breathlessly. They stared at me in surprise. "Your parents?" one of them repeated. "Yeah," I nodded. "My mum has black hair. My dad is kind of short and he has blonde hair." The two horrors glared at each other. "Mum was wearing a bright yellow sundress," I told them, "and Dad had a Chicago Cubs cap on his head," Luke added. "Oh yeah, right, one of the horrors," a woman replied. "You saw them?" I asked eagerly. She nodded. "Yeah, I remember them. They left about half hour ago." Oh, I gaped at her in disbelief. "They asked me to give you a message," the horror said. "Message? What message?" I asked. "Goodbye," the horror replied. Have their parents really abandoned them? I don't blame them, they seem to be little shits. Let's see how this goes. Are you having fun, guys? I hope you are. How do you think this is going to end? Have you got your own little conspiracy theories going about how this plot's going to go? Let me just adjust my headset slightly. It's bugging me. That's better. All this shaking my head is making it sort of dislodge. And this is one thing you don't want. It's a dislodged head. Chapter 16. "You're wrong," I cried. "They wouldn't leave." "About half hour ago," the horror repeated. She shrugged her shoulders under the bulky monster costume. "I was at the gate when they left." But, I sputtered. The two horrors turned and began walking towards a small white shed at the edge of the plaza. The back shed. No, wait. "Hey, wait," I called, chasing after them. "You made a mistake. Our parents wouldn't leave without us." They disappeared into the shed. The door slammed behind them. Slam. I've lost my place now. I turned back to Luke and Clay. They stared at me blankly. "She was wrong," I told them. "Mum and Dad are still here. I know it." "Then why did they say—" Clay started, but his voice broke. I could see he was very worried and upset. Beads of sweat ran down his pink forehead. Luke tried to make a joke. "I guess that means we have the whole park to ourselves," he exclaimed, forcing a smile. "Very funny," I replied sarcastically. "We also have no money and we're about 300 miles from home." "We could call somebody," Luke suggested. "No phones," Clay muttered. He lowered his head, shoved his hand into the pockets of his shorts, and turned away from us. "Oh right," Luke remembered. "They told Dad there were no phones at the park." "That's crazy," I said heatedly. "They're liars. The horrors are all liars." "I guess it's their job," Luke said, "telling us lies to scare us to death. That's why they call it Horrorland." "They should call it Dumbland," Clay muttered bitterly. "Ooh, sick burn." "But it's so cool," Luke protested. "I love being scared at my wits, don't you?" He gave Clay a hard shove. "No," Clay replied softly. He made no attempt to shove Luke back. "Well, she was lying about Mum and Dad," I insisted, gazing at us at the white shed. "She was just trying to scare us. Mum and Dad are still here. We just have to find them." "Come on, let's go," Luke urged. "I hope we find them soon. I'm getting really hungry." We wandered through the park for what seemed like hours. We searched through dark, mysterious woods and strange monster villages. We passed through a carnival area with dozens of scary-looking rides. On the other side of the vampire village, we passed a building marked Monster Zoo. It was closed. The end. But we could hear the most terrifying grunts, howls, and moans coming from inside. Sounds like one of my streams, to be honest. A long yellow building had a sign outside that proclaimed, "Guillotine Museum. Please hold on to your head." You must be this high to enter. Luke wanted to go inside, but Clay and I talked him out of it. Horrorland was surprisingly empty. We passed several horrors scurrying along their paths in their bright green costumes, and we saw a few families wandering around, always with crying kids. See, that's the real horror, all the crying kids. That's what would drive me mad. The rides in the carnival area were all running empty. All the food stands and the restaurants were empty too. We walked clear across to the other end of the park. I was feeling more and more worried. Why hadn't we run into Mum and Dad? Surely we should have seen them by now. Clay had become really quiet. I could tell he was really scared. Even Luke trotted along with his shoulders slumped and his head down. By the time we found ourselves back at the Alligator Pond, I was feeling pretty bad. I crossed the grassy shore and walked up to the edge of the brown water. Not poo water. What do you think happened to these teenagers that went swimming here? Luke asked, staring across the pond. Think the alligators ate them? Maybe, I replied. I wasn't really listening to him. I was thinking about Mum and Dad. Hey, look, Clay cried, pointing to the water. I saw 2 long greenish-brown logs floating towards back on top of the water. Run! That's definitely poo water. 2 long brown greenish logs. Run! Oh, for God's sake, wash your hands. It took me a while to realise that the logs were alligators. Oh, that's okay. Big ones, Clay declared in a hushed whisper. Better step back, I warned them. All 3 of us were standing at the water's edge. The alligators floated silently just below the surface of the still water, hardly creating a ripple. Mum and Dad didn't leave us without us, I repeated for the 1,000th time. But we searched everywhere, Luke said quietly. They didn't leave without us, I said. They would never leave without us. So... I hesitated. I was thinking hard, and my thoughts were all frightening. So? Clay asked eagerly. So if they're not in the park, I continued, it means something happened to them. Something bad happened to them. Clay grasped. Luke narrowed his blue eyes at me. What do you mean, Lizzie? He asked. I mean, maybe this place really is evil, I said. And maybe the horrors of somebody did something bad to Mum and Dad. I stared down at the brown alligator's back gliding so smoothly, so effortlessly towards us. That's crazy, Luke muttered. I knew it was crazy, but I had no other explanation. I have such a bad feeling about this park, I told him. A real bad feeling. And as I said that, I felt strong hands grab me from behind and push me into the alligator pond. Dun, dun, dun. Chapter 17. I screamed. Then I realised I wasn't being tossed into the water. The hands were holding onto my shoulders. I spun around. Dad! I cried. Lizzie! He exclaimed, still holding on to me. Where have you guys been? We've searched this entire park 12 times, Mum declared. She was standing behind us on the grass, hands pressed tensely on her waist. We were looking for you, I cried. They told us you left, Luke said. We were kind of scared, Clay added. We all started talking at once. I was so happy to see them, and I could see that Luke and Clay were really happy too. I had imagined all sorts of terrible things happening to Mum and Dad. It wasn't like me to let my imagination run away like that. But Horrorland was such a scary place. It was impossible not to have scary thoughts here. I want to go home, I cried. Did you find the phone? Clay asked. Did you find the car? Dad shook his head. No phones. The guy in the monster costume didn't lie. There were no phones in the park. But the horrors were very nice to us, Mum broke in. They told us not to worry about a thing. They just said to come back to the ticket booth when we were ready to leave, Dad reported. Mum ran a hand tenderly through Luke's hair. Did you go on any rides or anything? We did a lot of scary stuff, Luke told her. Very scary, Clay added. I'm really hungry, Luke said. Dad glanced at his watch. I don't have a watch, he declared. It's always way past lunchtime. I think we're all hungry. The restaurants and food stands were all on the other side of the park, Mum said. Can we just eat lunch and then leave? I asked eagerly. I still had a bad feeling about the place. I wanted to get away from Horrorland. Far away. Your mum and I spend all our time searching for you, Dad said, wiping sweat off his sunburned forehead with one hand. We haven't had any fun at all. We should at least all go on one ride together before we leave, Mum said. I just want to go, I urged. I really do. Lizzie, that's not like you, Mum scolded. She's scared, Luke told them. She's a chicken. Maybe there's a ride that will take us to the front of the park, Dad suggested. We could all take it and then have some lunch and leave. That sounds good, Mum said. She stared at me. Okay with you? I guess, I told her, sighing. It's just that the rides here are all too scary. They aren't any fun. Luke laughed. Hehe. They're too scary for Lizzie, but not for Clay and me, he said. Right, Clay? I was a little scared in the bat barn. Clay confessed. We headed away from the Alligator Pond across the grassy shore to the paved walkway. A couple of costume horrors walked past, chattering in low voices. A girl's high-pitched shrieks of terror floated in the air from somewhere in the distance. The same frightening cry repeated over and over. Wolf's howls rose in front of us. And from the speaker hidden somewhere in the trees, I heard evil laughter, a hideous cackle that repeated over and over. Ha, ha, ha. It's like being in a horror movie, Mum commented. Very clever, Dad added, walking with her hand on my shoulder. It's strange that we never heard of this park. They should put some ads on TV, Mum said. Then they get more people to come here. We passed by a tall, narrow green building with a sign in front of it that read, Free fall, the only bungee jump without a cord. Want to try that? Dad asked, squeezing my shoulder and grinning at me. I don't think so, I quickly replied. Luke was way ahead of us. He turned around and walked backwards, waiting for us to catch up. Mum and Dad should try the Doom slide, he said, grinning. It's awesome. Had he really forgotten how terrified he was? I don't think they'd like it, I said quietly. Maybe we could find something that's just a little scary, Clay suggested. Dad laughed. Are you having a good time, Clay? Clay hesitated. A little, he replied finally. I'm having a great time, Luke declared. The path curved along the narrow brown river. Eep. Millions of tiny white insects flitted across the surface of the water, catching the bright sunlight. They looked like little sparkling diamonds. A small brown boathouse came into view. A bat boathouse? I mean, it's nearly bat house, if you remove the O. Behind it, I could see slender canoes bobbing along the wooden dock. Bobbing along the boats and the brown blue water. That's not how that song goes. A song beside a sign, not a song, behind the boathouse read, Coffin cruise, a relaxing float to the grave. This might be fun, Mum said, her eyes on the small boats. I think the river flows towards the front of the park, Dad said. Let's take it. Luke cheered and went running to the dock. I lingered behind the others when I finally stepped out onto the dock. It took me a while to realise that the objects bobbing in the brown water weren't canoes. They were coffins. Yet the sign literally says that. Not sharp as tool in the shed, are you, Lizzie? Or the bat shed, I suppose. They were made of black polished wood. The lids were pulled back, revealing red satin interiors. Each coffin was big enough for one person. I felt a cold chill run down my back. We're really going to climb into coffins? I asked. Coffin! No, that's a Pokemon. They look comfy, Mum said, smiling at me. The water is flat and gentle, Lizzie. It won't be a scary ride. My voice keeps changing. Me first, Luke cried, running into the end of a wooden dock. Two costume horrors appeared to help us into the coffins. Lie back, enjoy the ride, one of them said. It will be your last, the other horror added with a low chuckle. Hehehe, thank you. We were all inside coffins. The horrors untied them and gave us a hard push from the dock. Here I am, I thought, rocking like a hurricane. No, lying in my coffin. Here we all are, my entire family, on our backs, in our coffins. The coffins floated gently, bobbing on the water. I stared up at the bright blue sky. Trees shimmering on both banks as I floated past. It was so pretty, so relaxing. Why did I think something terrible was about to happen? Well, there's still more book to go, so I'm sure it will happen. Chapter 18. My neck is itchy. Or maybe it's all the bats biting me, I don't know. Lying on my back, I couldn't see the others over the coffin's sides, but I could hear the splash of their coffins around mine. This is nice, Mum said. Very relaxing. It's boring, Luke declared up ahead of me. Where's the scary part? It's just a nice ride in a coffin, Dad said. Do you think it's really floating? Or do you think the coffin is on some kind of track? I could float like this for hours, Mum said. The rides here are pretty long, Clay told her. Is that a hawk up in the sky, Dad asked. Can anyone see it? Shielding my eyes to the sun with one hand, I searched the sky. Directly above, a dark shadow hovered above the sky, a little bigger than a dot. You need to read a book called The Last Hedgehog. Alright, Lee Scars, you're on. Also, hello. How you doing? Where was I? Shielding my eyes from the sun with one hand, I searched the sky. Directly above, a dark shadow hovered high in the sky, a little bigger than a dot. That's a dot. It's not a hawk. I'll bet it's a vulture, Luke declared. It sees the coffins and it's waiting to eat our flesh, he laughed. Hey, hey. Luke, where did you get those hideous ideas? Mum demanded. Maybe Luke should live in Horrorland, Dad exclaimed. We could get him one of those green monster costumes and he'd fit right in perfectly. He doesn't need a costume, I joked. I was starting to feel a little better. The ride was gentle and relaxing, and I figured nothing terrible could happen with my whole family around. I settled back on the coffin bottom, my hands resting on my sides, and I stared up dreamily at the bird circling high in the clear sky. The coffin bobbed so gently, making soft, splashing sounds, as bobs tend to do. So pleasant, so quiet. And then, before I could utter a sound, the coffin lid slammed shut over me, and I was trapped in total darkness. Bum, bum, bum. Chapter 19. Hey, I shouted. My voice was muffled by the heavy lid over me. Hey. I could hear the dull thud of the other coffin lids slamming shut. Hey, let me out. I pushed against the lid with both hands, but it wouldn't budge. I took a deep breath and tried again. This time I pushed with both my hands and my feet. The heavy lid still didn't move. My heart was pounding so hard. I thought my chest would explode. The air inside the closed coffin was already getting hot and stuffy. Open up! Open up! I screamed. I tried pushing the lid again. I could hear Clay's muffled cries in the coffin next to me. The poor guy was screaming his head off. I let out a loud groan and pushed it with all my strength. The lids wouldn't give an inch, or a millimetre, or any unit of measurement. Calm down, Lizzie, calm down, I instructed myself. It's just a stupid ride. The coffin lid will open any second. Breathing hard. I waited. I counted to 10. I counted to 10 again. So he counted to 20. The lid didn't snap open. I tried shutting my eyes and counting to 50. When I reached 50, I told myself, I'll open my eyes and the lid will be open. 22, 23, 79. Damn, I wish I learned how to count. I counted out loud. My voice sounded tiny and choked. I was getting hard to breathe. I was getting hard. It was getting hard even. It was getting hard to breathe. The air began to feel really stale. I stopped counting at 25 and opened my eyes. The lid hadn't popped open. It's so hot in here, I thought, so take off all your clothes. I'm getting so hot, I'm going to continue the rest of this book. The sun is beating down on the lid. There's no air, and I'm going to fry. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I gasped for air. Outside, I could hear muffled shouts and cries. Was that my mother screaming like that? It's just a ride, I said out loud. Just a stupid ride. The lid is going to pop. Now. But it didn't. The air was so hot and stale. Why didn't the lid open? Why? Why, Lisa, why? I tried to force back my panic, but I couldn't. My entire body was shaking and shivering. I felt cold perspiration drip down my forehead. Something has gone wrong, I cried out loud. The lid is supposed to open, but it doesn't. Frantically, I pushed up both my hands. My arms ached from pushing so hard, but the lid didn't move. The coffin bobbed and rocked in the water. I lowered my hands in defeat. I sucked in a mouthful of hot, stale air. My chest was heaving. My body trembled. And then I felt my legs start to itch. A tingly feeling down near my ankles, moving up my legs. An itchy, crawly feeling. Something was crawling slowly up my legs. Something small and prickly. Oh, I let out a slow, terrified groan. Spiders. Probably not from Mars. Chapter 20. I tried to scratch my legs, but my arms weren't long enough. Unable to move or bend in the cramped coffin, I couldn't reach down to them. The tingling moved higher. I wanted to scream, but I started to cough. And then the coffin lid popped open. Bright sunlight made me shut my eyes. Oh, I pulled myself up to a sitting position. Hold on, I thought you said you couldn't move or bend. How can you go into a sitting position? You're lying to us, narrator. Blinking against the light, I saw the others ready scrambling out of their coffins. I scratched my leg furiously. To my surprise, there were no spiders, no bugs of any kind. The coffin had pulled up to a small dock. I braced both hands against the side of my coffin and heaved myself to my feet. Let's get out of here! I heard Clay crying. I heard Clay cry. Yes. That was horrible. Say Clay cry 10 times fast, see what happens. That was horrible, my mum shrieked. Luke didn't say anything. His face was pale, and his black hair was matted to his forehead with sweat. They really went too far, Dad said angrily. I'm going to complain. That's the British way of doing things. Let's just go, Mum told him. We all scrambled onto the dock. I helped pull Clay up, and I took several deep breaths of fresh air. Dad ran off the dock towards the open plaza, and the rest of us hurried after him. To the ticket booth! The back ticket booth, he called back at us. Right up there, he pointed. The coffin ride had taken us to the front of the park. I could see the front gate and the row of green ticket booths to the right. That ride was really gross, Clay said, shaking his head. My legs got all itchy. I thought it was ants. Do you want ants? That's how you get ants. I thought it was spiders, I told him. I wonder how they did that, Luke said thoughtfully. I don't care, I replied. I just want to get out of here. I hate this place. So do I, Clay agreed. They'll just go too far, Mum said breathlessly, jogging to keep up with us as we followed Dad. It isn't any fun when a ride is that scary. I really had trouble breathing. So did I told her. Hey, how do we get home? Luke suddenly demanded, staring at Mum. Our car blew up. Oh yeah, so it did. I think those people in the monster costume will lend us a car, Mum replied. They told your father just to come up to the ticket booth. Can we stop to get pizza? Luke asked. Let's get out of this place and then worry about lunch, Mum told him. The main plaza was totally empty. Not another living person. Or an undead person. We followed Dad to the first ticket booth. He turned back to us, making a disappointed face. Closed, he said. A metal grate had been pulled over the window. Dad was breathing hard from running all this way. He pushed his blonde hair off his sweaty forehead with both hands. Over here, he said. We followed him to the next ticket booth. Also closed. And then the next. Closed. It didn't take us long to discover that all of the ticket booths were closed. Weird, Luke said, shaking his head. Don't they expect any more visitors today? Mum asked Dad. How can they just close up like that? Dad shrugged. We'll have to ask someone. His eyes searched the empty grounds. I turned and checked the plaza along with him. Still no one in sight. No visitors. No horrors. Let's try over there, Dad said. He started walking toward a low green building that stood beyond the ticket booths. It looked like some kind of office. It was closed too. Dad tried the door. It was locked. Dad scratched his head. What's going on here? Where'd everybody disappear to? He demanded. Mum took his arm. It's very strange, she said softly. I glanced at Luke and Clay, and they were standing tensely side by side on the walk in front of the office. Neither of them spoke. Are you sure these are the right ticket booths? I asked. Yes, Dad replied wearily. This is the front entrance. So where can everyone be? Mum asked, chewing her lower lip. Maybe we'll find someone in the parking lot, I suggested. You know, a parking attendant or something. They'll be able to tell us how to get a car to go home. Good idea, Lizzie, Dad said. He patted the top of my head. The way he used to when I was a little girl. I waited for Luke to make fun of me, but he didn't say a word. I guess he was too worried and upset. Come on, I urged. I turned and ran past the empty ticket booths. The tall metal front gate. Grate? What the fuck am I on about? The tall metal front gate to the horrorland stood just beyond the booths. I stopped for a second to read the sign on the side of the ticket booths. It said, No exit. No one leaves Horrorland alive. I said sarcastically. These signs are of riot, aren't they? I jogged the rest of the way and reached the gate first. I pulled, and it wouldn't open. So I tried pushing it. It didn't move. Then I saw the heavy chain and a large steel padlock on the gate. Swallowing hard, I turned back to the others. We're locked in, I told them. Well, Lizzie does an awful lot of swallowing hard in this book, doesn't she? It's like it's a hobby or something. Need better hobbies. Right, how long have we got to go? This book has... if I'm reading this right. This book has 29 chapters. We're on chapter 21. So I think I've earned a quick sippy break. Is this the wild Friday night you had all in vision, folks? If so, I hope you're enjoying it. Okay. Let's continue. Hydrate. Oh, thank you. Even though I just hydrated. Thank you, Queen. That'll probably help me massively. Thank you very much. Let's carry on. Shippity chapter 21. What? Dad stared at me, his face twisted in confusion. I don't think he believed me. We're locked in, I repeated. I lifted the heavy metal padlock with both hands and then let it fall back with a loud clang against the bars of the gate. Clang. But that's impossible, Mom cried, raising her hands to her cheeks. They can't lock people inside an amusement park. Yes, they can. Maybe it's another joke, Luke suggested. Everything in this place turns out to be a joke. Maybe this is one too. We'll try so much better at the same time. Oh, never mind. This is wild enough, right? You can't have too much wild on a Friday. I mean, it's Friday, and I'm told we have to get down on Friday, but not always. Don't let songs tell you what to do. Anyway, where the hell was I? I lifted the heavy padlock again. It doesn't look like a joke, Luke, I said unhappily. Then there must be another gate where they want us to exit, Mum suggested. Maybe, Dad said doubtfully. Maybe there's a side exit, but I haven't seen one. What are we going to do? Clay asked, whining. His face was red, and he was breathing hard. Where is everyone? Luke demanded, whining. They've got to let us leave. They've got to. Let's try to stay calm, Dad said, putting a hand on Luke's shoulder. There's no reason to panic. This is a strange place, but we're not in any danger. He's right, Mum broke in. There's no reason to be afraid. We'll all be out of here and on our way home in no time. She forced a smile. As soon as we get out, I'll buy you guys pizzas and big cold drinks. And we'll all have a good laugh about our terrifying adventures today in Horrorland. But how do we get out? Luke demanded shrilly. Well, Dad rubbed his chin. Do you think we could climb the fence? I asked. We all raised our eyes to the top of the iron fence. That's an iron fence. Pretend it's there. It was way over our heads. It must have been about 20 feet tall. Man, who can imagine 20 feet tall? That's too many feet. I can't climb that, Clay cried. I'd fall. It's too high, Mum said quickly. Bad idea, I murmured. A large white cloud drifted over the sun. Our shadows grew longer over the pavement. The air grew quickly cold. I felt a chill run down my back. There's got to be a way out of this stupid park, I cried angrily. I hoisted up the padlock and slammed it against the bars of the gate. Hold on, Lizzie, Dad said soothingly. We just have to find one of those costume park workers. They'll tell us how to get out. Dad? I turned and saw Luke grab Dad's arm. Here they come. We all uttered astonished cries as we saw the horrors crossing the plaza. Dozens of them. They moved quietly, with a steady rhythm, silently. A few seconds before, the plaza had been empty. Now it was filled with green costume horror marching towards us, spreading out, preparing to surround us. I could feel the panic rise up from my stomach. My knees began to shake. I stared in horror at them as they drew closer. Closer. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. What are they going to do? Clay cried. His features twisted in terror. He slipped behind Dad. What are they going to do to us? He cried. They're going to... Read Chapter 22, Electric Boogaloo. We hurried together as the horrors marched silently towards us. The only sound was the soft thud of the monster feet on the pavement, their long purple tails dragging on the ground. There were hundreds of them, Mum murmured. She grabbed Dad's arm with one hand. She slipped her other arm round my shoulders and pulled me closer. We had our backs against the iron fence. We stared helplessly at the grinning green faces, the bulging yellow eyes, which appeared to be laughing cruelly at us. Finally, they stopped a few feet in front of us. The plaza was still and silent, terrifyingly silent. Oh my God, can you imagine terrifyingly silent? I mean, an eerie silence is one thing, but a terrifyingly silent, that's just another level. Who would dare listen to such silence? Is that the sound of silence? Anyway, the sun was still hidden behind the big cloud. Two dark blackbirds, baked in a pie, had swooped low in the grey sky. We stared at the horrors, and they stared back at us. I swallowed hard. Swallowing hard again? Stop it. Leaning against my mother, I could feel her entire body trembling. I took a deep breath and cried out, "What do you want?" The sound of my own voice startled me. One of the horrors, a young woman, stepped forward. Frightened, I tried to back up, but my back was already pressing against the fence. "What do you want?" I repeated in a trembling voice. The costume horror stared at us one by one. "I want to thank you," she said in a cheery voice. "Huh?" I uttered. "I'm the Horrorland MC. We all want to thank you for being our guest today." She flashed us a warm smile. "You mean we can go?" Luke demanded, half hidden behind my dad. "Of course," the horror said, grinning warmly. "But first, we all want to thank you for appearing on the Horrorland hidden camera." Dozens of horrors behind there broke into applause and loud cheers. Yay. Huh? I mean, is this some kind of show? Dad demanded, frowning. "See the cameras?" the MC asked. She gestured up to two tall poles on the plaza. Raising my eyes to the top, I too saw two TV cameras. "You mean we're on TV?" Luke cried. "Since the moment you arrived," the MC replied. "Our hidden cameras follow you everywhere. From the hilarious scene where you blew up your car, our cameras were with you. And I knew our own audience loved the terrified expressions on your faces and all of the horrified screams as you took our Horrorland rides." "Now, wait a minute," Dad said angrily. He took a step forward. His hands were balled into tense fists at his sides. "You say this is a TV show. How come I've never seen it?" "We've seen every weekend on the Monster Channel," the horror replied. "Oh," Dad replied quickly, lowering his eyes. "We don't have cable." "You should get it," the horror told him. "You're missing a lot of great scary shows on the Monster Channel." The horrors all cleared and chapped. Yay. "Well, you've been very good sports," the MC continued, her yellow eyes bouncing in front of her head as she talked. "We've enjoyed having you, and to show our appreciation, we have a brand new car waiting for you in the parking lot." More cheers and applause from the horrors. Applause? Applause is what I meant to say. Yay. "A new car? Excellent," Luke exclaimed. "Does that mean we can leave?" Clay asked timidly. The horror nodded. "Yes, it's time for you to leave. The real exit is right over there through that doorway." She pointed to a tall green building near the end of the fence. I saw a yellow door on the side. "Take the yellow door," the horror instructed. "And thanks again for appearing on Horrorland hidden camera." As all the horrors clapped their big green hands, we stepped away from the fence and hurried towards the exit. "I can't believe we're on TV the whole time," Mum declared. "And we're getting a new car," Luke exclaimed happily. He started jumping up and down. Then he leapt into Clay's back, nearly knocking him over. I laughed. It was good to see the old Luke back with us. "We've got to get cable," Luke told Dad. "I want to see the Monster Channel. It's got to be awesome." "We'll have to order it so we can see it ourselves," Mum said. I reached the yellow door first and pulled it open. I stepped into an enormous room with white walls that shone under bright white lights in the ceiling. "Is this the exit?" I cried. As soon as we were all inside, the door slammed shut with a bang that made my heart skip. Then all the lights went out. "Welcome to the Horrorland Challenge," boomed a deep, frightening voice over the loudspeaker. "Huh?" I gazed blindly around, trying to see something, anything, in the total darkness. You have 1 minute to go through the monster obstacle course, the voice thundered. Please, keep in mind that the games are now over. This is real. You're playing for your life. I was turning to Squid Games. Damn it. Chapter 23, red light, green light. We've been tricked, I heard Dad cry angrily. And then he shouted at the top of his lungs, Let's get out of here! Run! The deep voice boomed over the loudspeaker. You have 56 seconds. Dad started to shout again, but we stopped where a dim light came up, and the disgusting four-armed creature stood towards us. Ugh! I cried out without even realizing it. The size of a gorilla. The monster had huge green eyes surrounded by a thick red fur over its face. Saliva drooled from its mouth, and as it opened its jaws wider, 2 rows of long fangs and big pointy teeth slid over its pin furful lips. Don't just stand there! Run! This is an obstacle course! The voice boomed impatiently. You have 50 seconds to live. At least make a good race of it. The monster uttered a low growl and lumbered towards us in the dim light. Its jaws were opened wide as if preparing to bite. Its 4 enormous clawed hands swiped at the air in front of it. I was too stunned to move, too frightened to run. But suddenly, I felt a hand grab mine and tug me hard. Thought you thought it was a wee bunny rabbit. Don't listen to our Tom. It's just a little harmless bunny rabbit, you know what I'm saying? Too fine. But suddenly, suddenly I soiled my armor. No, but suddenly I felt a hug. No, I did that. It was Dad, I realised, trying to pull me to safety. I heard the boys screaming in fear. I felt Mum brush aside me as if he started to stumble forward. Run! Run away! Run away! The deep voice arched over the shrieks of the 2 boys. How many Monty Python Holy Grail quotes can I squeeze into one spot reading? Let's see. Is anyone keeping count? The light was so dim, so shadowy, I could only see a blur now, a blur of running feet, of moving shadows. The monster let out a deafening roar. I covered my ears and kept running. Its 4-clawed hands swiped at Dad. Missed. We hurtled past it, only to face 2 giant birds. At least 10 feet tall, they looked like cranes. They squawked and flapped their enormous wings. Flap. It sounded like canvas tents flapping in a strong wind. Oh, help! Was that me shrieking like that? Was I really being wrapped in their hot, flapping wings? Smothered? Choked? Maybe in barbecue sauce? Oh, wait, that's chicken wings. No, please, how did I break away? Was I being chased now by 6 growling, pig-like creatures with sharp, pointy teeth curling from their twisted mouths? I screamed, and terrified shrieks of my family rose over the beating birds' wings and monstrous growls and grunts. I heard Dad cry out, and in a dim light, I saw him struggling to free himself from the 4-armed creature. No! I screamed as I felt something warm wrap around my ankle. A fur-covered snake! I screamed again and kicked wildly, sending it flying into the darkness. But before I could move away, another furry snake. Sounds like somebody's Rule 34 fantasy. Another furry snake spun around my leg, tightening quickly. I bent and pulled at it as it hissed in protest. I protest. I tossed it aside. Run! Run! The voice on the loudspeaker boomed. 20 seconds to live! More monsters loomed in front of us. Disgusting, yellow, lizard-like creatures with dark, flickering tongues like bullwhips, and hopping furry ball that roared as it hopped, sharp teeth pointing at the 3 mouths. Hissing snakes, enormous buzzing insects with glowing red eyes, more grunting pig monsters, and a huge, giant, bear-like creature came at us on 2 legs. Oh, a bear. It tossed its dark, round head back and laughed like a hyena as its paws punched the air. That's how a hyena laughs. Help me! I heard Luke shriek, and then I saw him disappear, wrapped inside the beating wings of one of the giant birds. A bird cawed in triumph as its wings tightened around my brother. 10 seconds, the voice boomed. No! I cried. I lunged towards the bird, grasped the beating wing, and pulled it open. Luke slid out, and we both began to run. Monsters growled, and flapped, and grunted, and roared, and squeaked, and made gurgling noises. Are we going to make it? Luke asked in a tiny voice. I didn't have a chance to answer. 2 powerful paws grabbed me around the waist, hoisted me high in the air. and slammed me to the floor like they just don't care. I landed hard on my stomach. My forehead hit the floor, dizzy and hurt. I looked up in time to see an enormous elephant-like creature about to flatten me with its huge, furry black foot. I'm not going to make it, I realised. I'm not going to make it. And isn't that the question we're all asking ourselves? Where's our giant elephant-like creature? I know that's what this streamer has been asking. Chapter 24. The enormous flat foot lowered over me slowly, steadily. The monster was taking its time. It all seemed to be happening in slow motion. I wanted to move. I wanted to roll out from under it. But the fall had taken my breath away. Take my breath away, elephant. I lay there, gasping, watching the monster foot coming down to crush me. Oh, I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't squirm away. I could feel the heat of the monster foot. That's the title for a book. I could smell its putrid sweat. The foot pressed down on my stomach. I shut my eyes and waited for the pain. The jarring blast of the buzzer made my eyes shoot open. The monster raised its heavy foot from my body. The floor shook under its weight as it began to lumber away. Am I alive? I wondered. Or am I only dreaming that I'm still alive? Is that creature really leaving without crushing me? The buzzer echoed in my ear, then it abruptly stopped. The loudspeaker crackled on. Time's up, a woman said, the voice of the lower-hand MC who had led us to his terrible obstacle course. Time is up, what a thrilling voice, she gushed. I groaned and started to pull myself up. In the dim light, I saw that all the monsters had vanished. That was a tough battle, the MC continued over the loudspeaker. Do we have any survivors? Yes, we do, the deep booming voice replied. How many survivors do we have in there? The woman asked. 3, the booming voice replied. 3 survivors out of 5. 3 is the number, not 4. 5 is right out. There we go, it's another Monty Python reference. Chapter 25. Getting close, guys. Getting close to the end. A cold chill ran down my body. I opened my mouth with a silent cry of shock and leapt to my feet. 3 out of 5? Did that mean 2 of us were dead? My chest still ached. My knees were trembling. I squinted into the dim light, searching desperately for the others. Halfway across the room, I saw Luke and Clay. They were huddled together, walking as if in a daze towards the far wall. Hey, I tried to call to them, but my voice came out as a choked whisper. Where were Mum and Dad? Were they both killed by the monsters? 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5? No! I finally found my voice and let out a horrified wail that echoed off the walls. Excuse me, a slight mistake, the deep voice boomed. Make that 5 out of 5 survivors. How can you not count to 5? 5 out of 5, the Horrorland MC exclaimed. A new record. We've never had a perfect score before. Let's give them a round of applause, everyone. Yay. I took a deep breath and held it, trying to stop my trembling. It doesn't work. I can't hold my breath and read at the same time. They're okay, I thought happily. Mum and Dad are okay. And then I saw them. They had their arms around Luke and Clay and were making their way towards me. And there was much rejoicing. All 5 of us huddled in the centre of the dark room, hugging each other and sobbing. Dad's arm was bleeding from a deep gash. One of the monsters had clawed him. Aside from that, we were shaken, but not hurt. Now what? Looked at us in a trembling voice. Are they going to let us go? They can't get away with this, Dad said angrily. They can't do this to people and get away with it. I don't care if it is TV. These monsters were real, I exclaimed with my shudder. It wasn't a fake. They were really trying to kill us. How do we get out? Luke demanded. Will they let us out? We all started chattering at once, our voices high and frightened. And I just got a cup of tea, but it's on the other side of the room. So I've got to finish this book before I can have it, and that's my reward. Suddenly, the ceiling lights flashed on, flooding the room with bright light. Ooh, I can do that. Bright light! That's the wrong colour. That's the right colour. Bright light! Bright light! Bright light! And the MC's voice broke through the frightened conversation. Let's bring our ringers out for a round of applause, she announced cheerfully. We all cried out the floor and began to tilt beneath us. I grabbed onto Dad and we started to slide. Lights, camera, no action. Still feeling dazed, I jumped quickly to my feet as the Horrorland MC hurried to greet us. The big crowd of horrors behind her was clapping and cheering. You can't do this, I screeched. I was so angry. I didn't know what I was doing. I just totally freaked. I leaped at the woman, grabbed at the top of her mask, and started to pull at it with both hands. You can't do this! You can't! I shrieked. Let me see your face! Let me see who you really are! Using all of my strength, I gave the mask a hard tug. Then I screamed and let go as I realized the truth. She had hands. Chapter 26. She wasn't wearing a mask. The monstrous green face was her face. She wasn't wearing a monster costume. None of the horrors were wearing costumes, I realized. I stepped back, raising my hands in horror as I tried to shield myself. You're really monsters, I stammered. They nodded back at me. Pleased grins on their ugly faces. Their yellow eyes bobbed gleefully. You're all monsters, I screamed. But you said this was a TV show, I stammered to the horror MC. I just didn't pull the mask on. Maybe. She's just but a child. Her bulging yellow eyes gazed at me. We're happy to say this is a top-rated show on the Monster Channel, she said cheerily. Thanks to great contestants like you and your family, the Monster Channel is watched by nearly 2 million monsters all over the world. But I stammered, taking another step back. People don't always take us seriously, continued. People come to Horrorland and think it's all a big joke. People laugh at all the signs around the park. They laugh at the rides and the attractions, but it's all very serious to all of us. All of it. My father stepped up beside me, shaking a fist angrily. But you can't do this to innocent people, he shouted. You can't bring people into this park and torture them. And... Oh, I'm sorry. Our time is up, the MC interrupted, shaking her enormous green head. I'm sad to say it's that time to say goodbye to our special guest for this week. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, ho, it's Monster & Co. Everybody say boo. Oh, wait, that's Sooty & Co. That's a different show. Now wait, Dad shouted, raising both hands for quiet. The crowd of horrors suddenly pushed forward. We had no choice but to start moving with them. Let me show you people the way we say goodbye on Horrorland Hidden Camera, the MC said. Dad tried to hold back, to resist, but several horrors bumped into him. They were bumping all of us now, pushing us towards what appeared to be a round purple pond just beyond the plaza. We couldn't fight back. There were too many of them. We couldn't run. They had us surrounded. They drove us like sheepdogs herding cattle. In a few seconds we were standing on the edge of the purple pond. A foul smell rose up from the pond. The purple liquid bubbled and gurgled, making the sick sucking sound, a bit like my stomach. Let us go, Luke cried shrilly. We want to go home. The Horrorland MC ignored his frantic pleas and stepped to the edge of the gurgling pond. Saying goodbye is always sad, she said, so we try to have a little fun with our farewells. Just let us go, Luke insisted. Dad put a hand on his shoulder to try and comfort him. We all stared at the MC as she raised a large rock in one place and held it over the disgusting, bubbling pond. Watch, she instructed us with a smile. She let the rock drop into the pond. As soon as it touched the thick surface, it was pulled down with a loud sucking sound. See how easy it is to say goodbye, the horror said, turning to us. Now, will you jump in? Or do you want to be pushed? Chapter 27, the penultimate chapter. How's it going to end? Silently, the horrors began moving on us. Closer. Closer. Singing 9 Inch Nails. The song Closer. Backing up, Clay tripped over my foot and nearly fell into the gurgling purple pit. That's a name for a horror book, isn't it? Gurgling Purple Pit. I grabbed him and held on to him until he regained his balance. All 5 of us were standing at the edge of the pit. The sour odour swept over me. I felt sick. The thick purple slime lapped up at me at my ankles as if reaching out to me. Hang on. Is this the river of slime from Ghostbusters too? 10 billion points of it is. Mum! Dad! I cried. I didn't know what I expected them to do. We were all helpless. I knew we weren't going to escape this time. Without realizing it, we were all holding hands. Will you jump in, or do you want to be pushed? The MC repeated her question. I'm real sorry, Dad murmured to us, ignoring her. I'm real sorry I brought you all here. I didn't know. His voice broke. He lowered his eyes. Dad, it's not your fault, I told him, squeezing his hand. It's Mum's fault, fucker. No, wait. And as I squeezed his hand, I had an idea. A wild idea. A stupid idea. A really crazy idea. I knew I had to try it. It was the only idea I had. People laugh at everything in the park, the Horrorland MC had told us. But it's all very serious to us, he said. All very serious. Very serious. Why so serious? She stood right in front of me now, waiting for us to jump into our desks, eager for us to get sucked down into this purple slime. Thank God it ended as that. Eager for us to get sucked would have been a horrible sentence to say. I knew this was my last chance. I knew it was crazy, but I had to try it. I stepped up to the MC, reached out, and pinched her arm as hard as she could. I said I was going to say something about no pinching. Alright, the final chapter. Are we ready? Are we ready for me to brush the microphone with my glass? Here we go. Deep breaths, guys. Penultimate. Not penultimate, that was the last one. Let's go. Let's go spooky. Let's go for a spooky light. That's not spooky. No, that's the wrong kind of spooky. Blue is not spooky. Purple is not spooky. Red is spooky. The final chapter. It's like Saw, the final chapter, but isn't. Chapter 28. Her mouth wide open, she let out a scarlet gasp. She tried to pull her arm away, but I held on and pinched harder. The mad pincher strikes again, I shouted, remembering Luke's annoying cry. Her yellow eyes rolled crazily. No, she pleaded. Harder, harder. And then I was the one to cry out as her mouth wide open, and with a loud whoosh, a rush of air escaped her lips. I leaped back. As the air rushed from her mouth, she appeared to deflate, just like a balloon. I gazed in amazement as she folded helplessly to the ground. An angry cry rose up from a crowd of horrors. Inflate her! One of them yelled. Inflate her immediately! Well, that's a sign I had to say. They began moving on us, growling and mumbling menacingly. Pinch them! I shouted to my family. Pinch them! They're no pinching signs that we thought were so stupid. They were serious. The horrors deflate if they're pinched. A horror stepped up, arms outstretched, and pushed me into the pond. I pinched his arm hard, and then a few seconds later, he deflated. I heard the... When you say he deflated, do you mean like he was just disappointed? He's just fine. I heard the whoosh of air escaping to my right. And saw that Luke had a deflated one too. Whoosh! Another one deflated and folded to the pavement. Do you reckon they're like flying around like balloons do? That'd be fucking funny. So I said the F word. That's all it took. The plaza filled with frightened cries and gasps of horror. The alarmed horrors turned around. The horrors. Stampeded is a better word. Oh no, they're going to kill Simba's dad. Maybe you should have tried pinching the wildebeest. What? They struggled through the park, screaming as they run. Taking a long, deep breath, I watched it. Deflating fine. Yes, it's an interesting idea, isn't it? Taking a long, deep breath, I happily watched them flee. See, I always come through in the pinch, I said. Terrible. I'd make the shit jokes here. Book. I said, amazing myself by making a joke. I don't think anyone else in my family heard me. There you go, Lizzie. The smartest thing you'll ever say, and no one was around to hear it. Dow! They were shouting for joy, hugging each other, jumping up and down. Jump around. Jump around. Jump up and start pinching. Let's get out of here, I shouted. I started running toward the front gate. The others followed close behind. The gate was open now. I guess the horrors had opened it, figuring the only place we were heading was the bottom of the purple pond. Without looking back, we ran out into the empty parking lot and stopped. No car, I murmured. In all the excitement, I'd forgotten that our car had been blown up. Yes, it's always easy to forget when your car's been blown up. I let out a weary sigh. I felt as if I was deflating, just like the horrors. Now what? I asked, staring at the enormous flat parking lot. It's too far to walk, Luke wailed. How do we get out of here? The buses! The buses! One cried, pointing. I turned my eyes to the row of purple and green buses parked to the side of the lot. They glowed in the hot afternoon sun. Yeah, Dad cried excitedly. Maybe we can start one up and get away from here. Do any of you have a heavy goods license to drive those? We started jogging over the pavement to the buses. Cross your fingers, Dad called, leading the way. Maybe they leave the keys in them. It's our only chance. Hurry! Luke shouted suddenly. They're coming! My heart leapt into my chest, and I turned back towards the gate. Sure enough, the horrors were pouring out the park, chasing after us. Give up! You cannot escape! One of them screamed. No one ever escapes! Another shouted. Hurry! Luke cried. Hurry! They're going to catch us! And guys, did you know, when I said that was the last chapter, I lied. Maybe because I didn't see it, because this chapter's literally like 2 pages long. So this is it. The final part. Chapter 29. With the horrors close behind, shouting and threatening us, we ran full speed towards the row of buses. My heart was pounding almost as loud as my sneakers against the pavement. My throat ached, and I had a sharp pain in my side, but I kept running. You cannot escape! Stop now! Give up! The angry cries of the horrors sounded even closer, but I didn't turn back to see if they were catching up. The door to the first bus was open. Dad got there first and scrambled up the steps and inside. Mum stepped in, followed by the 2 boys. I pulled myself inside and the bus door slid shut behind me. Dad, the keys! I choked out. Yes, they're here, he cried happily. Hold on, we're getting away! The engine coughed and then started up with a roar. Roar. Dad lowered his foot on the gas pedal and the bus shot forward. I stumbled down the aisle and fell into a seat behind Luke and Clay. Hurry! They're coming! They're coming! Luke and Clay were screaming in unison. I could hear the angry shouts of the horrors through the closed bus windows. We're okay, Dad cried, leaning over the big steering wheel. We're okay. We're out of here. So long, horrorland. Yes, I shouted happily. Yes. We started to cheer. We kept cheering until we were out of the parking lot and back to the highway. We laughed and celebrated all the way home. The drive took hours and hours, but we didn't care. We were safe. We had escaped. It was night when Dad pulled the bus up to our driveway. How did you fit an entire bus on your driveway? That's just weird. Home sweet home, he cried joyfully. We all piled eagerly out of the bus. I took a deep breath and stretched. The air smelled so sweet and fresh. A full moon made the front lawn shine. Then I saw him. It was a horror. Oh, it was clinging to the back of our bus. Oh no, I cried out. What are you doing there? Dad demanded. Did you ride there the whole way home? Luke asked in disbelief. I shrank back as the horror let go of the bus and slid towards the ground. His yellow eyes studied us menacingly, who moved quickly towards us. Clay and Luke hid behind Dad. Mum's mouth opened in fright. What do you want? I cried. He reached out his green hand. Here, he said. We forgot to give you your free passes for next year. The end. Da, 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 da. And that was that. That was One Day at Horrorland. It was a book, and I read it, proving once again that I can indeed read a little bit. Thank you for the GGs, my guys. So, yeah. Did you like that? The ends are always so anticlimactic. Yeah, they're always a bit shit, aren't they? It's always like they sort of write themselves into a corner and then like, oh, what's the most obvious answer we can go for? I know, love killed everything. Yes. But yes, I not gonna lie, I do enjoy reading these. So, of course, it's Halloween for the entire month here on Spooky Rambles, which means I am going to have to read at least another one before the month is out. And time has woken up, so I'm going to dash. Okay, Queen, thank you for joining in. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can always put this on YouTube because damn right it's going up on YouTube. So you can always watch it with Tabitha later if she really wants to watch it for some strange reason. And thank you, Tiggy. So yes, I just want to say thank you, Lone for the follow. And yeah, I am going to see if there's anyone to raid over to. I'm sure there's going to be. Actually, no. There really isn't. On a Friday night, I bet people are actually out doing stuff. Okay then, does anyone have any suggestions for raid before I just end it? I'll give you a moment. Before I end, I will be back tomorrow afternoon with some more Pokemon. I know it's not scary, but I just want to get it done. Just get it out of the way with, really. I'm sure there'll be ghost types, so that'll count. We've only got like the Elite Four to do on Victory Road, so I hope I can do it in 2 hours. We'll just have to see. But I'm off to a small person's birthday party tomorrow. Arcs UK. Okay, let's have a look at that. I don't know who they are, but on your suggestion, Astro, I shall have a look. Arcs _ UK. He's playing Overwatch. Oh, of course. Of course. That's why you want to go. I see. Alright then. Okay, so we shall raid over to Arcs UK. So, guys, thank you very much for sticking around, watching me read this book. And yeah, have a fantastic weekend. If I don't catch you tomorrow, I should be on Friday night. If not, I will see you when I see you next. Tatty byes, bye and bye. 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 Bye.